Vol 2, Chapter 1044, Good Governor, Part 2. Following the conclusion of the first battle of the model sector, Volgograd Kennedy was appointed as the governor of the model sector by Tang Xiao. His jurisdiction spanned the vast territories of the Kuna star cluster, the Inagi system, the Vassian system, and the Maya, including the Kavil galaxy. This made him the most influential figure in the Fourth Civilization under Tang Xiao's leadership. Volgograd Kennedy had once expressed to Tang Xiao his aversion to warfare, prompting Tang Xiao to assign him to various battlefields, including Tatooine and Malastol Fjord, in the model sector. However, when Kennedy expressed a desire to manage production in a logistics capacity, Tang Xiao appointed him as the sector's governor, doubling his satisfaction with Kennedy's performance. Kennedy, who had been haunted by nightmares from his past experiences, found a true sense of home in the model sector, a feeling he hadn't experienced since before his long hibernation on the Mothership. The last place he had considered home was destroyed, leaving a deep scar in his heart. Dedicating his energy to managing the sector, Kennedy chose not to establish the administrative core on the bustling but complex planet of Anji. Instead, he built a new administrative center on the planet Kuna's Teeth. 4 years after the first battle of the model sector, Kuna's Teeth underwent atmospheric transformation, allowing residents to venture outside with just a simple filter. A year later, the filters became unnecessary, marking the planet's rapid development phase. Kennedy focused on developing farmland and mining the planet's rich mineral resources, deliberately avoiding high-tech automation to maximize employment opportunities. He aimed to attract immigrants by creating jobs, especially as the war loomed and planets faced riots and famine. Among the immigrants were highly educated individuals and skilled workers. In his extravagant city planning, Kennedy constructed numerous houses, offering them to residents in exchange for their labor. Within 3 years, more than 10 large towns, including Blackhorn City, Horn, Jijian, Hongshui, Heijian, Mudstone, and Jiaofeng, emerged on Kuna's Teeth. Residents with steady jobs received free rationed food. To meet the high demand for food, Kennedy imported vast quantities from the Eru people, who had suffered a humiliating defeat in the war and were burdened with a 2 billion indemnity in the defeat treaty. Using this indemnity as collateral, Kennedy secured a large food supply from the Eru people, also incorporating products from the industrial planet Orville III into the deal. The Eru people, having lost over 60% of their industrial production capacity with the loss of Orville III, had no choice but to accept the terms. This arrangement not only provided food for the model sector, but also aimed to diminish any residual hostility among the Eru people, effectively pacifying them. Additionally, the prison planet Sonel was transformed into a unique agricultural planet, further contributing to the sector's self-sufficiency and growth under Kennedy's governance. The mineral resources of planet Sonel were notably inferior, yet it boasted an exceptional climate conducive to agriculture. Consequently, Sonel became the destination for a significant influx of criminals from across the Fourth Civilization. Among these, only a select few were recruited into the military, while the majority were tasked by Kennedy with the reclamation of farmland. This marked the beginning of a transformative era for Sonel, focusing initially on agricultural development. Following a 3-year period of population growth, Kennedy initiated the second phase, a productivity revolution. This phase was characterized by the modernization of outdated production equipment, paving the way for a surge in industrial activity. Factories emerged rapidly, signifying a major shift towards mass production. Kennedy, undeterred by the potential for overextending his workforce, capitalized on the continuous support from the Fourth Civilization, ensuring a steady influx of labor. In collaboration with the United Mining Group, he exploited the interstellar mines within the Eye of Kuna system, extracting rare minerals that were then traded to the industrial complexes and shipyards of the Fourth Civilization. This venture generated substantial revenue, which fueled further development. The third and nascent phase focused on the expansion of the manufacturing industry. This approach contrasted sharply with the development strategies of other impoverished planets, which typically prioritized industrial and manufacturing sectors before considering agricultural sustainability. These planets, often under the influence of interstellar corporations, would establish advanced factories with external support, but soon realized their foundational industries and technological capabilities were insufficient. This dependency on imports for both raw materials and food supplies led to a precarious existence, vulnerable to any disruption in external support. In stark contrast, the development model championed by Kennedy in the model sector emerged as a beacon of sustainable growth in the Outer Ring star region. This model attracted attention from numerous planets, prompting them to seek out mercenaries and bounty hunters, even at great personal or financial cost, to emulate Sonel's success. Under Kennedy's stewardship, the model sector flourished, establishing its own defense fleet, security forces, and army. The morale among the soldiers was notably high, driven by a collective commitment to defend their homeland. However, the arrival of Master Yoda, leading a formidable fleet of 30 Chaser-class battlecruisers through an unconventional hyperspace route, exposed the vulnerabilities of the model sector. Despite Kennedy's diligent efforts over 12 years, the sector's defenses were quickly overwhelmed. The fleet, devoid of the slower Cheer-class assault landing ships, comprised the entirety of the Galactic Republic's Model Sector Legion. Equipped with 10,000 combat aircraft, 50,000 clone troopers, 300 ATE walkers, and 1,200 LA assault transport boats, the fleet launched a swift assault on Anaj, the capital of the model sector. This sudden invasion underscored the harsh reality that, despite its internal achievements and the sense of security fostered by its development, the model sector remained vulnerable to external threats. The people of Anaj, who had embraced the peace and prosperity brought by Kennedy's leadership, now faced an unprecedented challenge. Upon witnessing the vast armada of the Galactic Republic drawing near, the Fourth Civilization immediately declared opposition. The Eru leaders from the planets Anji and Maya Kaviar swiftly proclaimed their allegiance to the Galactic Republic, offering their full support to the Republic's fleet. However, turmoil quickly ensued on both planets, particularly on Anji. This was due to the significant human population on these Eru worlds, who had long been subjugated by the Eru and were staunch supporters of the Fourth Civilization. Consequently, violent clashes erupted between the two species. The human representatives from Anji sought out Master Yoda, pleading for the Galactic Republic's intervention. They expressed their desire to join the Republic, contingent upon the cessation of Eru aggression towards humans. They requested the deployment of Republic forces to restore peace. Heeding their call, Admiral Theost, commander of the Republic fleet, dispatched 8,000 clone troopers to Anji, mandating an immediate halt to the hostilities. However, quelling the Eru's fervor was no simple task. Governor Volgograd Kennedy, though recognized for his benevolence, harbored deep resentment towards the Eru for dragging him back into conflict. His measures against the Eru were harsh, including forced labor and stripping them of their industrial capabilities. The Eru's animosity towards the Fourth Civilization, stemming from past grievances, was projected onto the humans. With the backing of the Galactic Republic, Eru launched an assault on the humans shortly after declaring their allegiance to the Republic. The clone troopers, despite their valor and combat prowess, were overwhelmed by the task of stabilizing a planet of 4 billion inhabitants. Recognizing the dire situation, Master Yoda decisively led the fleet to target the Vassian and Orville galaxies, aiming to dismantle the Fourth Civilization's control. Under Volgograd Kennedy's command, the defense fleet in the model sector evaded direct confrontation by hiding in the XZ region. The planets, refusing to capitulate, mobilized ground forces in defiance. However, when the Republic initiated ground operations, these forces quickly crumbled, resorting to guerrilla tactics. The clone army's approach to the planet's administrative capitals prompted immediate surrender, showcasing the effectiveness of the Republic's strategy. Within days, the Vassians, Orville III, and the prison planet Sinel capitulated. Yet, despite their surrender, the workforce on these planets initiated strikes, citing the unrest as justification. While the planet's inhabitants were quick to celebrate the Republic's presence, their reluctance to assist the Republic fleet with supplies and maintenance highlighted a complex dynamic. The commander of the Galactic Republic fleet was faced with the challenge of navigating this delicate situation, understanding that true allegiance involved more than just declarations of support. Supported by Sector Governor Volgograd Kennedy, the Republic fleet set its sights on the Kuna cluster, believing that capturing him would resolve their issues. However, as soon as the fleet departed from the core of the model sector, chaos ensued on the recently surrendered planets. Hidden planetary defense forces, previously undetected, launched surprise attacks on the spaceports, which were lightly guarded by clone troopers, and destroyed supply warehouses. Small ships, hastily launched from these planets, targeted the transport vessels requisitioned by the Galactic Republic fleet, aiming to cut off any supplies from reaching the fleet. Their message was clear. The Republic fleet would have to make do with whatever resources they had brought with them. They would receive no additional support from these planets. The local populace and workers on these planets showed a complete lack of cooperation with the Republic forces. While the administrative bodies on the planets appeared submissive, they were anything but helpful, offering a plethora of excuses for their inaction and adopting a defiant stance that screamed, "There's nothing we can do about it." In this tumultuous sector, the only planet that remained relatively stable under Republic control was Maya Cavier, home to the Eru people. However, the departure of the Republic fleet towards the Kuna star cluster in the Zuma division seemed to signal an opportunity for interstellar pirates. These pirates, seizing the moment, began to aggressively target transport ships and caravans in the vicinity of Maya Cavier, aiming to plunder as much as they could. Faced with this sudden surge in pirate activity and resistance on the surrendered planets, Fleet Commander Theoster was forced to make a strategic decision. He dispatched 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers back to the model sector to quell the uprisings and protect the supply lines. The remaining 20 chasseurs continued their mission in the Kuna cluster, searching for Governor Volgograd Kennedy's main fleet. Their search led them directly to the Kuna's Tooth Galaxy, the administrative heart of the Kuna star cluster. However, upon arrival, they were met not by the enemy fleet they had expected to find, but by a formidable array of Gauss automatic defense platforms surrounding the planet. It was clear that locating and engaging Volgograd Kennedy's forces would be far more challenging than anticipated. Please remember to visit the original website for the fastest updates on this novel. Vol 2, Chapter 1045, The Second Battle of Model Sector 1, Date 20 BY, June 27th. Location, Outer Ring of the Milky Way, Western Region, Model Sector, Zuma Star Region, Kuna Cluster, Outer Orbit of Kuna's Teeth. 20 Chaser-class battlecruisers maneuvered in orbit outside the planet, each executing their assigned tasks. Their first order of business was to neutralize the Gauss automatic defense platforms stationed on the planet's outer periphery. Following this, they began to establish a blockade defense line, using the planet's equator as a reference point. The main artillery group, positioned under the bridge of the Chaser-class cruisers, relentlessly fired. Blue turbo laser beams continuously struck the shields of the Gauss weapon platforms, causing them to ripple before shattering. After a series of violent explosions, the platforms disintegrated into countless fragments. The officers and crew of the Galactic Republic Navy had become exceedingly familiar with these Gaussian weapon platforms, a staple of the Fourth Civilization's defense strategy. These platforms were notably troublesome, small, stationary, but heavily armed with two 500mm heavy railguns, two 8-mounted missile launchers, and dual close-in laser cannons for upper and lower fields of fire. Although the firepower posed by these platforms was negligible against the formidable battlecruisers, they could become a significant nuisance in large numbers. This was especially true after the Fourth Civilization enhanced the targeting systems and networked the fire control systems of the Gauss platforms across all planets, increasing their threat level. In some instances, the combat computers of these platforms even used their main guns to lock onto fighters. Under the coordinated control of advanced central command centers on the planet, Republic fighter pilots had to exercise extreme caution to avoid being hit. A direct hit from these platforms' 1,000G overloaded 1.8-ton shells would obliterate a fighter jet, leaving no chance for recovery. Despite their effectiveness, the cost of manufacturing these weapon platforms was surprisingly low, primarily utilizing outdated technology, with the advanced components housed within the ground command center. Currently, around 3,400 Gauss weapon platforms orbited planets under the control of the Fourth Civilization, with core planets like Planet Haven being encircled by thousands. Each Gauss defense platform was equipped with a limited arsenal, 20 electromagnetic artillery shells, 48 missiles, and 2 sets of laser batteries. The strategy was simple. If all the ammunition could be expended in battle, it was considered a victory. The Galactic Republic's Navy had developed countermeasures against these platforms. Instead of deploying fighter jets, they opted to engage directly with their battlecruisers. Although this approach was time-consuming, it allowed them to systematically eliminate the weapon platforms with minimal damage. The Republic fleet was making progress in clearing the more than 400 Gauss weapon platforms surrounding Kuna's teeth. Once a breach in the defense line was achieved, they initiated a landing operation. Without Cheer-class assault landing ships, the landing process was cumbersome. The Chaser-class battlecruisers had to enter the planet's atmosphere, deploying a large number of L-8 assault transport ships to ferry troops repeatedly. The first 2 Chariot-class ships to penetrate the atmosphere were not carrying ground forces, but were loaded with hundreds of L-8 assault transport ships and an equal number of fighter jets. Upon atmospheric entry, they released all fighter jets to secure air superiority and dispatched the L-8s to bombard ground targets under fighter cover. Following this, Chaser-class ships filled with clone soldiers continued to enter the atmosphere. The LA-8s that had remained in the atmosphere then began transporting soldiers to the surface to establish positions. Directly landing battleships on the ground was deemed an impractical option due to the excessive resources acquired for repeated atmospheric entries. Exiting the atmosphere alone was enough to cause Republic Fleet Commander Theoster significant discomfort, not to mention the energy required for landing and taking off again, which was nearly 5 times that of merely entering and exiting the atmosphere. On the planet Kuna's Fang, the Fourth Civilization Model Sector Legion mounted a formidable resistance. A swarm of Vulture robot fighters ascended to challenge the Republic fleet for control of the skies. The planet's surface was ablaze with anti-aircraft fire, launching an unending barrage of missiles, lasers, and artillery into the heavens, painting the sky a fiery red. The planet was defended by a single orbital cannon, which relentlessly targeted the Republic fleet in orbit, making it the Republic's primary objective. A Chaser-class battlecruiser braved the intense anti-aircraft fire, using its main guns to bombard the orbital defense cannon's positions relentlessly until it was destroyed. However, the battlecruiser's shields suffered significant damage from the ground fire, forcing it to ascend rapidly and retreat to the outer atmosphere. On Kuna's Tooth, the Fourth Civilization's Model Sector Legion's resistance was fierce. Understanding the Republic fleet's limited ground assault capabilities, they organized a rapid response force using a cargo ship converted from a transport spaceship. Whenever a Republic landing was detected, they would swiftly engage with overwhelming numbers. Master Yoda, recognizing the urgency, dispatched an additional squadron of ARC-170 fighters from the warships in orbit. These fighters executed targeted bombings on the airfields and spaceports on Kuna's Tooth, aiming to cripple the enemy's ability to deploy forces globally. The Republic forces then focused on establishing a secure landing zone 300 kilometers from Cape Noir City, the planet's capital. This strategy proved effective. The Model Sector Legion's quick reaction force encountered the Republic's clone army and suffered heavy losses, including the destruction of their transport by the ARC-170 fighters. With the airfields and spaceports neutralized, Cape Noir City was effectively isolated. Despite the presence of a large number of troops on the planet, their lack of mobility meant they could not quickly reinforce their positions. By this time, the number of Republic clones on the ground had swelled to 20,000, and they began a counteroffensive against the Model Sector's army. Despite being outnumbered, with nearly 50,000 troops from the Model Sector attempting to dislodge them, the clone troops demonstrated their superior combat effectiveness. They not only held their ground, but also launched a counterattack that decisively defeated the enemy in just 2 hours, resulting in over 15,000 casualties and the surrender of the remaining forces. At that moment, a brilliant white light flashed on the periphery of Kuna's Fang, heralding the arrival of a fleet from hyperspace. The main fleet under the command of Volgograd Kennedy had finally arrived. Please remember the first domain name of this book. For the fastest updates, visit the Apex Novel Network mobile version. Volume 2, Chapter 46, The Second Battle of the Model Sector, Part 2. The main fleet of the Fourth Civilization's Model Sector finally made its appearance. However, when compared to the formidable fleet of the Galactic Republic, which boasted 20 Chaser-class cruisers, the Model Sector's fleet seemed rather lackluster. It consisted of 10 Higra-class battle cruisers, 5 Generosity-class communication frigates, and 8 Apocalypse-class light cruisers. Essentially, these were ships that had been phased out by the navies of the Fourth Civilization and the Confederation of Independent Systems due to their inability to compete with the Chaser-class battlecruisers in previous engagements. These ships, now relegated to secondary fleets, were typically used for maintaining law and order or serving as expendable forces in major battles. Given their history, this fleet was hardly a match for the Republic's forces. Despite their disadvantages, the Model Sector's fleet did not hesitate to engage. As soon as they emerged from hyperspace, they unleashed a barrage of artillery fire on the Republic's ships. Both the Higra-class battlecruisers and the Generosity-class communication frigates shared a notable characteristic. They were equipped with very few main guns, only 2 each, positioned directly at the front, yet these were remarkably powerful. This initial salvo posed a significant threat to the Republic fleet before the two sides could fully engage. However, the Republic's officers and soldiers were well acquainted with the capabilities of these ships. They quickly dispersed their formation, attacking from all directions to prevent the Model Sector's ships from focusing their firepower. Meanwhile, Republic warships stationed in other parts of the planet swiftly converged on the location. The Republic fleet had been operating in the Model Sector for nearly half a month, and Commander Oster was eager for action. However, in a surprising turn of events, more than a dozen spaceships launched from Noir City, the capital of Kuna's Tooth Planet, and managed to break through the blockade. These ships quickly entered hyperspace, making their escape while the Republic's forces were preoccupied with the main fleet. Following the escape of these ships, the Model Sector's fleet showed no interest in continuing the fight. They activated their hyperspace engines and vanished before the Republic ships could engage them. On the bridge of the Republic fleet's flagship, Master Yoda opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the fleeing ships. "The commander of separatism has left Kuna's Tooth Planet," he stated calmly. Commander Oster's expression darkened. Their governor, Volgograd Kennedy, appears to have used their main fleet as a diversion for his escape, he deduced. Indeed, it was a demonstration, a lure, Master Yoda mused. They are signaling to us that they still possess the capability to resist, and their main fleet remains unscathed. Oster clenched his fists. If I'm not mistaken, Kuna's Tooth Planet will surrender immediately. As if on cue, the screen flickered, and a middle-aged woman wearing golden glasses appeared. She bowed deeply to Master Yoda and said, "In light of the Galactic Republic's overwhelming strength, Kuna's Tooth Planet has chosen to lay down its arms, cease resistance, and surrender unconditionally. We request that the Republic's forces show mercy to our civilians who are merely refugees from across the galaxy seeking refuge from war." She then added, "We ask that you allow us to resupply your fleet. We can provide fuel, explosive gases, and core elements." This chapter marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing conflict, showcasing the strategic maneuvers and the complexities of warfare within the galaxy. Theoster's voice was icy as he spoke. "I'm sorry, but the criminal Volgograd Kennedy destroyed the warehouse upon his departure. In the recent battle, the spaceport and airfield, which stored a significant amount of combat supplies, were also destroyed. Now we have nothing left." His female adjutant bowed her head respectfully and replied, "However, we can provide sufficient food and medicine. The people of our planet may have to endure hunger, but as long as they survive, that's what matters. After all, compared to the noble masters in the inner circle, these outcasts don't deserve to make any demands. Bastard! Theoster slammed his fist on the table, his anger reaching its peak. If we've run out, then we must build more, dig more, refine more. Our planet is vast, and the factories are still standing. We're attempting to restore order, but... she began. Are you trying to tell me that because the planet is in chaos, no workers are willing to work? Theoster exploded with a string of expletives, his frustration evident. Once your powerful fleet eliminates Volgograd Kennedy and his henchmen, order in the sector will gradually be restored, and we'll be able to meet all your production needs, the adjutant replied calmly, seemingly unaffected by the label of criminal attached to Volgograd Kennedy. Theoster's face twisted in rage. I'll give you 1 day to prepare all the strategic materials I need. Otherwise, I will destroy one of your cities every 2 hours. I'll also destroy your farms, factories, and settlements, leaving you homeless. Then, I believe the entire galaxy will recognize the might of the Republic fleet, the adjutant said, her expression unchanging and her tone submissive. Yet her words struck Theoster like a thorn. You think I won't do it, Theoster roared. However, Master Yoda raised his hand, signaling for calm, and sighed, we must not harm civilians. But, Theoster began, only to fall silent at the sight of Master Yoda's stern expression. It is essential to maintain order and rebuild after the war. We cannot allow a famine to occur, Master Yoda stated firmly. Yes, Master Yoda, I will do everything in my power to maintain order, rebuild after the war, and ensure the safety of our people's lives and property, the adjutant He-Yuan said, her head bowed. Master Yoda looked at her intently, his gaze seeming to pierce through to her very soul. After a moment, he asked, Your name? My name is He-Yuan. After Volgograd Kennedy's escape, I have been serving as the temporary governor of the planet, she replied. Master Yoda nodded, then the communication ended. Theoster, now more anxious, said, Master Yoda, our supplies are depleted. We thought the separatists on the planet Kuna's Teeth would fight to the last, but they've adopted a scorched earth policy. After this large-scale landing, we don't have enough resources for another operation of the same scale. He gestured towards the planet of Kuna's Fang, visible through the window. These people are clearly loyal to the separatist cause, but loyalty has its limits. If we make an example by destroying a few of their cities, regardless of Volgograd Kennedy's promises, they will turn against him. But Master Yoda simply replied, The weakness of this fleet, I acknowledge. But we must not trample on our principles. Volume 2, Chapter 1047, The Second Battle of the Model Sector, 3. Theodore, the commander of the Republic fleet, found solace in Master Yoda's words and responded, No, Master Yoda, our adversaries have proven to be exceedingly cunning in this battle. They've resorted to using civilians as human shields, exposing them to our artillery fire to buy themselves time. Indeed, they are willing to sacrifice their own, Master Yoda remarked as he made his way toward the porthole, leaning heavily on his cane. Theodore quickly followed, though he hesitated to offer assistance. Master Yoda had performed a remarkable feat to organize this battle. He had broken through hyperspace to forge a channel, leading 30 Chariot-class battlecruisers into the model sector. This achievement was unparalleled, even by Master Koluth Serbaus, the original theorist of this strategy. However, the effort had taken its toll, leaving Master Yoda drained and yet to recover his full combat strength. Theodore, remember, at least 80% of the model sector's residents are immigrants seeking refuge from war and famine. They've built their lives here, which speaks volumes about their loyalty. But loyalty has its limits, Theodore reflected, his judgment clear despite his earlier frustration. We represent the Galactic Republic, fighting for justice and peace. Master Yoda stated solemnly, to turn our weapons against civilians would betray our very purpose. Theodore's expression turned somber. Then what should we do? The crisis originates from the eye of Kuna Galaxy, Master Yoda revealed. We must confront this challenge head-on. It is our last chance. Understood, Theodore acknowledged. He then turned and commanded, adjust the formation and redeploy the battleship. Leave an army of 10,000 to maintain planetary order. All other battleships, prepare to depart for the eye of Kuna Galaxy in 2 hours. In the eye of Kuna Galaxy, amidst the chaos of its formation, a pale blue star shone brightly. The galaxy was a swirl of asteroids and cosmic dust, all drawn by the star's gravity. Like moths to a flame, they moved closer, merging with the star and contributing to a luminous ring around it. The ring's innermost material melted into gold, the middle layer burned in red lava, and the outer layer, still in asteroid form, appeared gray. The entire star, with its light blue gaze, seemed to calmly observe the universe. On the outskirts of the galaxy, near a planet teeming with volcanoes, the main fleet of the Fourth Civilization's Model Sector Legion was stationed. This included 3 Lucrehut-class battleships, forming the fleet's core. Several small spaceships approached the central Lucrehut-class battleship. Upon landing in the core spaceship's central hangar, Sector Governor Volgograd Kanedi, clad in a military coat and wide-brimmed hat, exuded an air of authority as he made his way to the bridge. Throughout the vast battleship, soldiers from various races of the model sector stood at attention. Due to budget and production constraints, these soldiers lacked the Liberator-type combat uniforms of the Fourth Civilization's regular army, wearing only basic chemical fiber uniforms. Yet, their spirits were high, and they saluted Kanedi with respect as he passed, which he returned with equal formality. Upon reaching the bridge, a military officer in his 30s approached, snapping to attention before announcing loudly, "Your Excellency, the fleet has been assembled and is ready for battle at any moment." Volgograd Kanedi returned the salute and acknowledged, "Well done, Colonel Jin Chen." Colonel Jin Chen had been Kanedi's adjutant upon his arrival at Kuna's teeth. Back then, Jin Chen was a young, enthusiastic man. Over a decade of dedication had seen him mature significantly, rising through the ranks to become the fleet commander of the Model Sector Legion. Alongside him, He Yuan, once a new adjutant and now appointed by Dawn Planet, had become a master in administrative management. The Fourth Civilization's ambition to make Volgograd Kanedi a pay-ower in the model sector was no small feat, requiring significant manpower. Kanedi, removing his military cap and placing it on the table, peered at the star map before him and spoke gravely. "The Republic fleet's landing operation on planet Kuna's Fang went as expected, and we mobilized our forces for a counter-offensive. However, the Republic's clone army has proven to be an unmatched force on the battlefield." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "We've lost more than 2,100 Vulture robot fighters, 87 spaceships of various types, 40 Wolf mechs, 40 Giant mechs, and 270 Warthog off-road vehicles. Additionally, we've lost 100 Vulture chariots and suffered 11,742 fatalities and 45,004 injuries among our troops." Looking around, he saw the faces of officers and staff members, a mix of Rhodians, Nyctos, Wathians, Granites, Waquans, Solarians, and Semirs among others, all united in their indignation. The Model Sector Legion's inclusive approach to all races stood in stark contrast to the Fourth Civilization's policy of limited equality. As our leader, Tang Xiao, has stated, the Galactic Republic has become a formidable war machine. The past half-month of conflict has only reinforced this reality, yet we cannot afford to surrender. The Kuna cluster, the model sector, is our home, and we must defend it with everything we have, regardless of the enemy, Kanedi declared. A resounding yes echoed in response. The upcoming battle will be our most perilous yet. The Republic fleet is undoubtedly aware of our last refuge in the eye of Kuna Galaxy, and they will seize this final opportunity to defeat us. Should we fall, other planets may surrender, even if only in pretense, and the model sector will be no more, Kanedi explained with a solemn tone. "We will fight to the very end," Jin Chen exclaimed. Kanedi nodded in agreement. "Prepare for battle and proceed according to the prearranged plan. Remember, time is on our side." A chorus of affirmatives filled the room. In the outer reaches of the Eye of Kuna Galaxy, navigating the complex terrain was a challenge. The galaxy was littered with asteroids and colossal behemoths, thousands of kilometers in diameter, creating mass shadows in hyperspace that made direct jumps risky. Amidst the flickering white light, 20 Chaser-class battlecruisers emerged from hyperspace, entering the Eye of Kuna Galaxy, ready for the impending confrontation. Vol 2, Chapter 1048, The Second Battle of the Model Sector 4. Theost approached Master Yoda, who was deep in meditation, his eyes closed, and spoke in a hushed tone. "Master Yoda, we have entered the Kuna's Eye Galaxy." Typically, Jedi Knights serving in the army are referred to as generals by the soldiers, but Theost has always addressed Master Yoda as Master, a title that reflects his deep respect. Master Yoda opened his eyes, his gaze intense and serious. "Danger lurks from all around. We face a situation where failure is a distinct possibility." Theost nodded, acknowledging the complexity of the situation in the Eye of Kuna Galaxy. "Our sensors have pinpointed the main ship's locations, scattered across 3 regions of the galaxy. However, the abundance of asteroids and numerous hidden corners could conceal ambushes, making it impossible to detect them all." "But," Theost continued, gesturing towards the holographic star map and marking a specific location, "our scans detected a very distinct signal here. The object measures 249 meters in length and has been identified as a Finky-class vessel." "Finky-class. Indeed, the flagship of the United Mining Group's fleet," Master Yoda acknowledged, nodding. "The Eye of Kuna is one of United Mining Group's most crucial mining galaxies. Such super-large industrial flagships are rare within the United Mining Group, and they are not available for external purchase. Many mining corporations within the Republic have shown great interest in acquiring a vessel capable of supporting an entire interstellar mining operation on its own. Offers have even been made on the black market," Theost added, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "If my assumptions are correct, this Finky-class industrial flagship is likely near one of United Mining Group's interstellar mines, and it's possibly the largest of its kind." Master Yoda remained silent for a moment, placing his hand on the star map. He closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses. After a brief pause, he opened his eyes and said, "Traps surround the Finky-class industrial flagship. Air mines, ambushes, gravity traps." He marked several areas on the map as he spoke. "Damn, these separatists are too cunning," Theost exclaimed, slamming his fist on the table. "But we need a definitive target before we can proceed." "Follow the force mine," Master Yoda advised, closing his eyes once more and placing his hand on the holographic star map. He then provided a coordinate. "Here, the separatist fleet." Theost nodded, turning to address the crew. "Notify the ships to advance immediately." "Your Excellency, the Republic fleet has not taken the bait. They bypassed the Finky-class industrial flagship we placed and are heading directly towards us," Jin Chen reported, his expression grave. "The opposition is led by Master Yoda himself. It's not surprising they've managed to avoid our trap," Volgograd Kanedi responded, his gaze steely. "However, knowing what might happen and facing it are 2 different things. Ultimately, it's the strength of our fleets that will decide the outcome. The battlefield is unforgiving." "Understood," Jin Chen replied. As the Galactic Republic's expeditionary fleet navigated through the asteroid-filled Kuna's Eye Galaxy, their objective was clear: to target the core of the Model Sector fleet, hidden near the planet Kuna, 3 Rukrius Graham-class battleships. This location, chosen by Volgograd Kanedi, was to be the stage for the final confrontation. The battlefield was fraught with dangers, including hundreds of millions of air mines hidden among the asteroids, ready to detonate upon the approach of Republic battleships. Additionally, Javelin-class guided missile frigates lurked in the shadows of asteroids, launching powerful long-range missiles at the Republic fleet. The complex terrain made intercepting these missiles challenging, prompting the Republic fleet to deploy fighter formations to provide cover. The battle strategy of the opposing forces was clear from the outset. They had no intention of engaging in prolonged combat. After launching their missiles from a safe distance, they quickly retreated, avoiding any direct confrontation. As the Republic's fighter formation advanced, they were met by a squadron of fighters emerging from a hidden hangar platform within the asteroid belt. These were not the Vulture robot fighters previously encountered on the planet Kunafang, but rather the elite fighters of the Model Sector Legion, including a significant number of Z-95 Headhunter general-purpose fighters acquired from the former Blade fleet, and a smaller contingent of Ghost fighters. These pilots had spent the last 2 weeks training in the Eye of Kuna Galaxy, gaining a familiarity with the complex asteroid-filled environment that the Galactic Republic's pilots sorely lacked. Adding to the Republic's troubles were the numerous Gaussian weapon platforms concealed among the asteroids. These platforms, launching large-caliber electromagnetic artillery shells, proved to be a formidable challenge, especially in such a cluttered space. Despite this, under Master Yoda's unwavering command, the Republic fleet pressed on towards their objective with determination. 4 hours into their journey, the Republic fleet reached the designated coordinates, and a fierce battle ensued. The Republic's 20 Chaser-class battlecruisers faced off against a mixed enemy fleet consisting of 10 Higera, 5 Generous, 3 Rookie Hook classes, and several smaller ships, including 8 Apocalypse. The battle was intense, with turbo laser cannons firing relentlessly, turning any asteroid in their path to dust. Amidst this chaos, smaller warships and fighter jets weaved through the asteroid field, engaging in dogfights and supporting their capital ships. The Model Sector Legion had committed its entire arsenal to this battle, including hundreds of Reckless-class and Shuttle-class light frigates, which hunted the Republic's fighters. Despite their efforts, the Model Sector's ships were gradually forced to retreat, maintaining a scattered formation as they attempted to evade the Republic's advance. The Chaser-class battlecruisers, though less agile than the Higera class, outmatched the Generosity and Rookie Hook classes in mobility, navigating the perilous asteroid field where air mines and Javelin-class guided missile frigates lay in wait. After more than an hour of intense combat, the Model Sector's main ships began to scatter, seeking refuge and resupply at the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship. This move seemed almost taunting, as if they were openly inviting the Republic fleet to engage them. At this point, Theoster, following Master Yoda's guidance, divided the fleet into 4 combat groups, launching a multi-directional assault. However, the Model Sector fleet continued to evade direct confrontation, leading the Republic on a chase that drained their ammunition and fuel. Several of the Model Sector's heavily damaged warships brazenly approached the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship for repairs and resupply, seemingly unfazed by the Republic's presence. Theoster was left hoping that the traps and ambushes laid out by Volgograd Kennedy were finite and that the Model Sector could not maintain their elusive tactics indefinitely. The Republic's only chance of victory lay in overcoming the enemy before their own resources were utterly depleted. Attachment 1 of the Easter Egg Chapter, the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship. Please remember the first domain name of this book, website, the fastest update of the Apex Novel Network mobile version, website, Vol 2, Chapter 1049, the Second Battle of Model Sector, 5. In the midst of the fierce battle raging within the Eye of Kuna Galaxy, the capital of the Model Sector, the planet Anji, which had been teetering on the brink of chaos, finally erupted. The explosion was akin to a long-festering nuclear bomb detonating. On Anji, the relationship between the Eru and humans was fraught with tension, comparable to the volatile mix of fire and water. The arrival of the Galactic Republic fleet sparked an immediate rebellion among the Eru, who saw an opportunity to eliminate all humans on the planet with the Republic's support. However, the humans proved to be more agile in their response. Even as the current Queen of the Eru was announcing their surrender, the human leaders had already negotiated their own surrender directly with the Republic fleet. This unexpected move by the humans ignited fury among the Eru, who felt betrayed and outraged. The question of why the humans would also surrender when it was the Eru's intention to do so first led to an armed conflict between the two races. The conflict escalated rapidly, with both sides nearly resorting to deploying tanks and armored vehicles. In an attempt to restore order, Admiral Theost and Master Yoda, before heading to the Kuna cluster, left behind 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers and 8,000 clone troopers. However, maintaining peace was a near-impossible task. With a population nearing 4 billion on Anji, the clone troopers were vastly outnumbered. The simultaneous surrender of the human regime to the Galactic Republic further complicated the situation, effectively preventing direct military intervention by the Republic fleet and leaving them mired in a quagmire of conflict between the humans and the Eru. The absence of Master Yoda and the main fleet did not bring peace to Anji. Riots, clashes, bloodshed, marches, and strikes became the order of the day. The planet's production ground to a halt, not due to worker strikes but because spaceports and strategic warehouses were destroyed in the unrest. The chaos also attracted interstellar pirates who ravaged the model sector, looting caravans and severing supply routes. The Republic was forced to dispatch 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers to the planets of Vassian and Sonal to combat the pirate threat and gather strategic materials to support the returning main fleet. On June 32nd, a glimmer of hope emerged as the Republic battleship stationed on Maya Kavier, the Iru's homeworld, announced the collection of a significant batch of explosive gas, battleship fuel, and hyperspace core elements. These strategic materials were destined for Anji. Maya Kavier, predominantly inhabited by Iru, was spared the violent conflicts plaguing other planets, making it a stable but impoverished world. Despite its economic challenges, the strategic importance of Anji as a transportation hub necessitated the risky delivery of supplies. The commander of the Republic Squadron, aware of the precarious situation, ordered immediate reinforcement from other planets. The mission was clear: ensure the safe delivery of the strategic materials to Anji, a task fraught with danger but essential for the Republic's efforts in the model sector. As the situation on planet Anji became increasingly volatile, the Republic forces prepared for an immediate return, focusing their efforts on stabilizing the region. However, as fate would have it, disaster struck at the most inopportune moment. In a secluded valley within the southern hemisphere of planet Anji, a concealed door swung open, unleashing hundreds of spaceships. These craft skimmed the ground at an alarmingly low altitude, catching the Republic fleet off guard as they surged towards the cities of the Eru people. Their target was unmistakable. They descended upon the capital, the economic heart, and the central transportation hub of the Eru people simultaneously. As the spaceships landed and their hatches flew open, a fearsome army clad in blood red emerged. Their uniforms, helmets, and even their weapons bore Tang Xiao's same ominous hue. The full-coverage helmets were adorned with the visages of monstrous beasts, giving the impression that not men, but ferocious creatures were pouring onto the planet's surface. Indeed, this was the Beast Legion, a formidable force drawn from the most dangerous criminals on the prison planet of Sonal. Comprised of individuals facing death or life sentences, joining the Legion offered them a slim chance at redemption. By earning military honors, they could potentially reduce their sentences. The training regimen for the Beast Legion was notoriously brutal and merciless, overseen by instructors from the Fourth Legion who cared little for the lives of these convicts. The goal was to forge the most ruthless fighting force imaginable. The Beast Legion had previously made a brief but impactful appearance during the Fourth Civilization's campaign to annihilate the 19th Army of the Republic. Their effectiveness in battle was undeniable, but their brutal tactics had previously caused the Supreme Military Command of the Fourth Civilization some concern, fearing negative public perception. However, such reservations were cast aside in the face of the Eru people's second rebellion. In preparation for this moment, the Beast Legion underwent a significant transformation. Their uniforms were dyed a stark blood red, and a novel feature was added to their combat helmets: a kill counter. This device served as a real-time monitor of each soldier's actions in combat, recording their kills for later assessment. Due to the gruesome nature of this tally, the task of counting was delegated to robots, which were indifferent to the distinction between civilian and soldier casualties. According to their programming, the life of a civilian was valued at 0.1 points, a fully armed soldier at 2 points, and a clone soldier at a staggering 10 points. The strategic deployment of the Beast Legion on planet Anji, well in advance and in secrecy, indicated that Volgograd Kennedy had anticipated the Eru people's rebellion. This time, there would be no mercy shown. The release of the Beast Legion signified one thing above all: a relentless onslaught was about to begin. The Ailu people of planet Anji were taken aback by the hidden threat within their own world, a threat they had never anticipated. Under the governance of Volgograd Kennedy, the Eru people found themselves disarmingly vulnerable. Kennedy's strategy had been straightforward yet insidious. He encouraged the Ailu people to focus on agriculture, ensuring their economic dependency while subtly eroding their industrial and military capabilities. Although Kennedy could not exert the same level of control over Maya Kavir, the Iru people's homeworld, due to its unified resistance, he managed to significantly weaken the Ailu people on Anji. By restricting access to advanced production equipment, Kennedy ensured that the Ailu's manufactured goods could not compete in the market. Furthermore, by offering incentives for agricultural exports, he effectively shifted the Iru population from factories to farms. As a result, the Ailu's military presence dwindled to a mere token force, primarily serving as a police force. In contrast, the Beast Legion, part of the Fourth Civilization's military hierarchy, was renowned for its ferocity, ranking second only to the Fourth Legion itself. Their ruthlessness was unmatched, even when compared to the combined forces of the Larry people, the Gnolls, and the Ewoks' jungle army. The reason was chillingly simple. The Beast Legion was devoid of any semblance of humanity. A Beast Legionnaire, identifiable by the number 277 on his shoulder armor, stood atop a commandeered hover car, unleashing a barrage of gunfire at civilians attempting to flee a building. The number indicated the kills he had claimed before this battle, a grim testament to the lives he had taken. The Ailu people, caught in a desperate attempt to escape, were cut down mercilessly, their numbers thinning like grass before a scythe. The cities of the Eru people became scenes of horrific slaughter, plunging into chaos as the news of the Beast Legion's onslaught spread. Civilians cried out in terror, seeking to evacuate the urban centers. The ensuing panic led to numerous collisions between spacecraft and hover vehicles, adding to the pandemonium. The Galactic Republic's clone army, numbering 8,000 and stationed on Anji, responded with urgency. They deployed LAT assault transport boats to the beleaguered Eru cities, hoping to counter the Beast Legion's rampage. However, the dense crowds of panicked civilians hampered their efforts, rendering their mission nearly impossible. Faced with this dire situation, the clone ground commander requested air support from the Chaser-class battlecruiser in orbit. The Republic squadron commander, concerned about the ground unrest threatening the safety of strategic materials in orbit, authorized the launch of 300 fighter jets to provide assistance. Their mission was to enter the atmosphere, engage the Beast Legion, and attempt to quell the violence. But the true horror was yet to unfold. Amidst the chaos, a series of massive explosions rocked the centers of several major Eru cities on Anji. The source of the devastation was the central waste collectors, which had been rigged to explode. This act of sabotage spread a foul stench throughout the cities, marking a new level of terror in the conflict. The tactic of destroying central waste collectors was not new. It had been employed previously in the war between the Kali and the Yamrai, as well as in quelling the Yamrai's post-war resistance. The ministry had resorted to this drastic measure to assert control, but on Anji, it signaled a devastating escalation in the battle, one that the Ailu people were ill-prepared to face. The Ministry of Public Health of the Fourth Civilization has always prioritized the construction of central waste collectors in large cities. These facilities not only elevate the public health standards, but also serve as a measure to quell rebellions. The Ailu people, a race known for their rebellious nature, had central waste collectors installed in every city following a previous uprising. However, during the recent rebellion, the Ailu people believed they had neutralized the threat by seizing control of the central waste collectors' control room early on, eliminating the management staff and taking over the system. They thought they had outsmarted the system, but they were gravely mistaken. The bomb was remotely controlled and placed at the very bottom of the waste collector. To disarm it, one would have to dive into a literal sea of waste. The naivety of their plan became apparent when the bomb was detonated, unleashing a massive wave of waste that engulfed the city center, creating a catastrophic yellow tsunami. The situation was dire in the three largest cities, including the capital of the Ailu people. These cities had been targeted by the Beast Legion, causing panic among the citizens who flooded the streets in an attempt to escape, only to be met by the explosive deluge of waste. Clone trooper squads, sent as reinforcements, were caught off guard by the sudden onslaught and were swept away, their fates unknown. In contrast, the soldiers of the Beast Legion had strategically positioned themselves on higher ground, sealing their combat suits and switching to internal oxygen supplies. From their vantage points, they mercilessly fired upon the Alu people struggling in the filth below, taking perverse delight in the chaos. The bombing of the central waste collectors in dozens of cities threw the Alu society into disarray, crippling government functions and erasing any semblance of order on the planet Anji. Clone troopers of the Galactic Republic, witnessing the disaster from their LAT assault transport crafts, were dumbfounded by the unprecedented scene, unsure of how to respond to such an extraordinary crisis. However, the catastrophe on the ground paled in comparison to the imminent threat from above. Aboard a Galactic Republic Chaser-class battlecruiser in orbit around Anji, a radar operator detected alarming hyperspace activity. With a voice tinged with panic, he alerted his superior. "Sir, a significant number of hyperspace fluctuations have been detected. The numbers are staggering." The squadron commander rushed to the monitor, seeking clarification. "What's happening?" The operator responded, "A vast fleet of spaceships is making hyperspace jumps towards Anji. They appear to be small vessels, but there are hundreds of them." This book's first domain name is remembered for the latest updates, and the Apex Novel Network's mobile version remains the fastest update website. Vol 2, Chapter Than 51, The Second Battle of Model Sector, SEP. One day prior, in the Kunazai Galaxy, the fleet battle escalated into its most brutal phase. Master Yoda, realizing that further evasion would only lead to their demise, made a decisive command. He ordered all Republic warships to head directly towards the Finwale-class industrial flagship, despite it being an obvious trap. The trap, set by the Separatists, is also where their main force lies, Master Yoda declared with conviction. He understood that the most perilous location might also be the enemy's weakest point. Since the fleets in the model sector had laid traps near the Finwale-class industrial flagship, to maximize their effectiveness, their main force had to be there, leaving them no avenue for retreat. This was the Republic fleet's final opportunity. Master Yoda, standing before the battle star map, marshaled his most formidable forces and charted a safe course for the Republic fleet. Then, the 16 Chaser-class battlecruisers, the Republic fleet's remaining combat-ready ships, charged towards the Finwale-class industrial flagship with the ferocity of starving wolves. On the flagship of the model sector fleet, Volgograd Kanedi adjusted his large-brimmed military hat and announced solemnly, "Since the Republic has chosen to confront the trap head-on, intending to turn the tables on us, we must muster our last ounce of strength for a fight to the death." He commanded, "Signal every hidden battleship within the galaxy that is still operational to converge on the Finwale-class industrial flagship. Our target is the Republic fleet." Fleet Commander Jin Chen barked orders, "Prepare the air mine array. Detonate gravity traps on my command. Suicide drones, stand by for launch." The fixed artillery on the asteroid has been unveiled and is now combat-ready. As the traps revealed their menacing capabilities, the main fleets of both sides ceased their evasive maneuvers and engaged in direct combat. Dozens of kilometer-long main battleships exchanged relentless fire, with neither side holding back. Fighter jets were launched in full force, leaving none in reserve. Despite Master Yoda's keen senses, traps around the Finwale-class industrial flagship continued to spring up, one after another. Meanwhile, on the planet of Anji, the Republic Fleet Command was taken aback as a multitude of signals appeared on the hyperspace sensors. Hundreds of small warships? The Republic Squadron Commander's expression darkened as realization dawned on him. No, they're targeting this batch of supplies. Before he could finish, a brilliant white light flashed, and a vast array of spaceships emerged from the hyperspace channel, appearing suddenly in space. The fleet, comprising over 500 ships of various classes and designs, seemed to encompass nearly every type of spacecraft known in the Milky Way. The assortment included G9 cargo ships, T6 shuttles, YT-1000 multi-purpose ships, CR-70 frigates, and many more, each bearing different insignias, presenting a ragtag appearance. Witnessing this formidable assembly, the Republic Squadron Commander felt a chill. Mercenaries, smugglers, and bounty hunters. How dare they challenge the Galactic Republic? Indeed, The force amassing before them was not just comprised of mercenaries, smugglers, and bounty hunters. It also included many ordinary families driven to take a stand. In the vast expanse of space, a unique assembly of spaceships soared with a purpose. These vessels, unlike any standard fleet, were a testament to resilience and desperation. Originating from various planets ravaged by war, famine, exploitation, and injustice, their inhabitants sought refuge in the model sector. Here they found what had been stripped from them: peace, tranquility, equality, and freedom. This newfound sanctuary was something they were determined to protect at all costs, even against the formidable Galactic Republic. The leaders of this eclectic fleet, known as the Knights of the Red Pine, rallied their forces with fervor. "Ihao! Target the Republic battleship! Advance!" one captain bellowed. "Fartooth, assault!" another commanded. "Wildmane, unleash full firepower!" a third ordered. Their cries filled the communication channels, a public testament to their unity and resolve. "Expel the forces of the Galactic Republic. The model sector is ours to defend. The Knights of the Red Pine will safeguard our homeland." Despite the lack of sophisticated communication encryption, their message was clear and their purpose singular. They faced the Galactic Republic fleet, a formidable adversary, yet they were undeterred. On board a Republic battlecruiser, a staff officer approached the squadron commander, underestimating the threat. "General, these are mostly civilian spaceships, with minor modifications. Our fleet can easily overpower them," he asserted confidently. However, the commander, weighed down by a grave realization, countered, "But have you considered why they've chosen to launch a decisive raid now? It's because of the situation in the Eye of Kuna Galaxy." The mention of the Eye of Kuna Galaxy and the fleet led by Master Yoda and Admiral Theost sent a chill through the staff officer. Without further discussion, the commander ordered, "All ships enter combat mode, launch all fighter jets, activate all main artillery, and fire at will." The command was relayed, and the Republic fleet sprang into action. The 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers unleashed a devastating barrage from their main guns, obliterating more than 10 of the smaller, less equipped spaceships. Yet the civilian fleet pressed on, returning fire with every weapon at their disposal. Missiles, lasers, and energy beams filled the starfield, creating a spectacle more intense than a storm. As the Republic deployed its fighter jets, the civilian fleet revealed its own diverse array of fighters. Z-95s, Nantexes, Oryx, P-38s, Belbra Bu-22s, Ghost Fighters, Blade 2s, and more joined the fray. The battle escalated into a fierce confrontation, showcasing the determination of those fighting for their sanctuary. This chapter, an Easter egg within the narrative, highlights the resilience of the civilian fleet, a motley crew united against a common foe for the sake of their newfound home. In the chaotic expanse near the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship within the Kuna's Eye Galaxy, the space battlefield had devolved into utter pandemonium. Warships and fighter jets were embroiled in a frenzied dance of destruction, their weapons discharging relentlessly. Amidst this turmoil, a blade fighter, a relic from the Fourth Civilization, darted through space. Unlike its contemporaries, this fighter abstained from engaging in the battle, instead opting for evasive maneuvers to dodge the incoming fire. At its helm was a B-1 combat robot, repurposed for warfare, piloting the jet with robotic precision and repeatedly acknowledging commands with a monotone "Roger, Roger." Nearby, on a rugged asteroid, a hidden gun turret took aim and fired at a Chaser-class battlecruiser, only to be obliterated by an ARC-170 fighter's shock missile, the turret, an asteroid, disintegrating in a fiery explosion. The ARC-170, intent on intercepting the blade fighter next, found itself outmatched by 2 Ghost Fighters. The skirmish provided the blade fighter with a window to escape, setting its sights on the Chaser-class battlecruiser. As it raced towards its target, the aftermath of an air mine detonated, shearing off the fighter's left wing. Spiraling uncontrollably, yet maintaining its forward momentum, the fighter caught the attention of the Chaser-class battlecruiser. The battlecruiser's close-range laser cannons pivoted to engage the erratic fighter. In a stroke of luck, a Hagera-class battlecruiser intervened, its particle beam cannon piercing through the Chaser-class's shields and causing a catastrophic explosion on the hangar deck. Seizing the moment, the blade fighter, piloted by the B-1 combat robot, executed its final maneuver, a collision course with the Chaser-class battlecruiser. The fighter crashed into the hyperspace engine located between the battlecruiser's bridge towers, the most vulnerable part of the ship. The impact triggered the proton bombs within the fighter, unleashing a devastating explosion that obliterated the engine and initiated a chain reaction. A brilliant flash of white light marked the instant the rear half of the Chaser-class battlecruiser was stretched into a thin line over 100,000 kilometers long by a malfunctioning hyperspace jump before disintegrating entirely. This marked the 7th Chaser-class battlecruiser lost in the battles near the Finn Whale-class industrial flagship. The model sector fleet, despite being outmatched, leveraged the chaotic battlefield to their advantage. Utilizing suicide drones, aerial minefields, and gravity traps, they created significant obstacles for the Republic ships. Even under the guidance of Master Yoda, the Republic fleet found it challenging to navigate the battlefield tactically once engaged. The traps laid by the model sector fleet proved to be devastatingly effective, showcasing their strategic prowess despite their numerical and technological disadvantages. Behind the Republic fleet, despite being outmatched, they managed to drag the opposing side into a grueling fight. The situation grew dire as after a series of high-intensity operations and pursuits, the Republic's expeditionary fleet found itself running dangerously low on ammunition. They had reached a point where every shot from the turbo laser turret had to be carefully considered to avoid wastage. Yet, despite these precautions, their ammunition reserves were nearly depleted. The capacitors and blasting gas required for the turbo laser cannons, the fuel for the battleship's navigation, and the core elements needed to initiate the hyperspace engine were all critically low. Theoster approached Master Yoda with urgency, saying, "Master Yoda, our supplies are completely insufficient to support this battle. The Separatist fleet, on the other hand, still has ample supplies. If this continues, we will soon reach a point where we won't even have the energy to fire our weapons. However, the staff has devised a battle plan that might allow us to turn the tide." Master Yoda, with a grave expression, focused on the holographic star map displaying a Finn Whale-class industrial flagship, and said slowly, "To secure supplies, we must target this Finn Whale-class." Theoster responded, "Master Yoda, your wisdom sees through all. Indeed, after scanning, we discovered that this Finn Whale-class industrial flagship contains cargo compartments loaded with explosive gas tanks, cores, and spaceship fuel. If we can breach the shields of this industrial flagship, we can dispatch a squadron of fighter jets to sever the connections to these compartments and secure them with tractor beams. This operation could replenish our supplies in less than 20 minutes. Decoy, this must be. I have foreseen the outcome of failure." Master Yoda shook his head, expressing his concerns. This time, Theoster countered, "Please excuse my insistence, Master Yoda. The situation on the planet Anji has changed, with a large number of civilian ships attacking our fleet. If we fail to destroy the main Separatist fleet here, we risk being completely cut off. Therefore, despite the risk of failure, we must attempt this." Master Yoda, looking out the porthole, sensed the immense darkness emanating from the Dawn planet. This powerful and profound force disturbed the force's fluctuations, clouding his vision of the future. He sighed, relinquishing his objections, and declared, "I will personally pilot a fighter jet. Let us cling to this last hope." Theodore nodded decisively and ordered, "Notify the ships to change course and focus their attack on the Finn Whale-class industrial flagship. All fighters, adjust formation to provide cover for the operation." As the Republic fleet redirected its focus, Volgograd Kanedi, observing the movements of the Republic battleships from the bridge of his flagship, a Lukrahuk-class battleship, allowed a faint smile to cross his face. "Your Excellency, the Republic battleships have changed formation. They are targeting the Finn Whale-class industrial flagship." Fleet Commander Jin Chen exclaimed, surprised. "They finally took the bait we set," he announced. With Master Yoda on the opposing side, it was unlikely they would fall for our trap. It seems they have chosen to bite the hook in a desperate attempt to seize this last chance, Volgograd Kanedi mused, stroking his tangled beard. He then pressed a button and declared through the communicator, "Activate the pulse-activated linked all-around core, on the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship and engage Invincible mode. Vol 2, Chapter 53, The Second Battle of the Model Sector, 9. All warships, target the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship. Theoster commanded with urgency in his voice. Monitor the shield strength closely. We must not destroy the flagship outright. Fighter squadrons, stand by. As soon as their shields fall, sever the connection to their cargo bay. The fleet of 8 Chaser-class battlecruisers pivoted to face the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship. Despite the chaos of battle, targeting the stationary behemoth was a straightforward task for the Chaser-class's advanced fire control systems. Given that these cruisers were designed for engagements up to 10 light minutes away, approximately 180 million kilometers, hitting the immobile target was almost guaranteed. As the turbo-laser cannons unleashed their fury, the flagship's energy shields shimmered under the assault. Back on the Republic fleet's flagship, technicians anxiously monitored the shield's integrity. The initial barrage has concluded. The Fin Whale's shields have dropped by an estimated 12%, one technician reported, turning to face Theoster. Maintain firing discipline. We need that ship intact for its cargo. Prepare the fighter squadrons and tractor beams, Theoster ordered, his voice booming across the command center. Despite the model sector fleet's pre-laid traps, the superior firepower of the Chaser-class battlecruisers gave the Republic fleet a significant advantage. Their firepower was unmatched by the model sector's main ships, the Higra-class and Generosity-class, ensuring the Republic could dictate the battle's pace. Another volley of turbo-laser fire rained down on the Fin Whale-class flagship, causing its shields to flicker violently once more. Direct hit. Shield energy is now down by an estimated 39%. A technician shouted, "Continue the assault!" Theoster commanded. The Republic fleet's cruisers relentlessly bombarded the Fin Whale-class, adjusting their formation to be ready with tractor beams the moment its shields failed. After several more salvos, with the shield's estimated damage increasing with each attack, Theoster sensed something was amiss. He scrutinized the screen and bellowed, "What's going on? Why are the shields still operational?" The technician, beads of sweat forming on his brow, pointed to the screen. "These are the estimated shield capacities based on our scans. The actual figures shouldn't be off by more than 10%. But why?" Theoster's face twisted in frustration. Just then, another bright flash illuminated the viewport as their flagship's main cannon fired once more. The turbo-laser beam struck the Fin Whale-class, causing another surge of energy across its shields, which, astonishingly, remained intact. Suddenly, a dense mist began to envelop the industrial flagship, obscuring it from view. The purpose of this action was unclear, but one fact was undeniable. The shields were still up. "This is impossible. 6 salvos should have been more than enough to breach the defenses of even the super battleship Plague that terrorized the inner ring." Theoster slammed his fist onto the console in anger. "General, what should we do?" the technician asked, his voice laced with panic. For a moment, Theoster was at a loss for words. With their ammunition supplies dwindling, continuing the barrage seemed futile. Each additional salvo drained their resources further, pushing them into a precarious position. The realization that their opponent might outlast them in this standoff was a bitter pill to swallow, forcing Theoster to reconsider their strategy in the face of this unexpected resilience. The relentless barrage from the fleet reduced their combat capability significantly. Yet, if they ceased their assault now, all previous efforts would be in vain. Moreover, their target was merely an industrial flagship, a civilian vessel. Despite its colossal length of 2,449 meters, it seemed implausible for it to withstand the continuous onslaught from more than 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers. The next salvo could very well shatter its shields. General Theoster, with his teeth clenched, fixated on the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship. It had remained stationary from the start, a thorn in his side. Between gritted teeth, he commanded, "Keep shooting." The space outside the porthole lit up once more as the battleship's main guns unleashed another volley, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. Yet, the Fin Whale-class remained unyielded, its energy shield flickering under attack but still holding. "General, the number 7 turret's ammunition reserve is depleted. Should we redistribute from other turrets?" inquired the Fire Control Department officer. Theoster's face turned pale as he stared at the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship, speechless. Meanwhile, Master Yoda, leading a squadron of fighter jets through a perilous battle in an asteroid-filled space, had downed dozens of enemy jets single-handedly. He too noticed the Fin Whale-class's persistently flickering shields and, shaking his head, opened the communication channel to order, "Retreat, do it now." The Republic battleship swiftly turned, making its way out of the galaxy's complex terrain. It seemed poised to escape the star's gravitational well and activate the hyperspace engine for departure. Governor Volgograd Kennedy of the model sector, in a gesture of frustration and relief, exclaimed, "The Republic fleet is retreating." "We, Your Excellency the Governor," Jin Chen interjected, his eyes bloodshot but gleaming with excitement. "We won." "Yes, we won," affirmed Volgograd Kennedy, his voice booming with authority. He then issued a command. "All active spaceships, prepare for immediate departure after a brief resupply. Our target is planet Anji. We will intercept the Republic's fleet there. This time, even if their commander is Master Yoda, we will capture him." "Yes!" The officers and soldiers around him responded in unison. Amidst this, the Fin Whale-class industrial flagship was a hive of activity. Despite the ventilation system working at full capacity, a burning odor permeated the spacecraft, and the temperature had soared to 45 degrees Celsius. "Quick! Seal off the H-79 isolation chamber to prevent the fire from spreading." The captain issued orders relentlessly, directing the damage control department to extinguish fires throughout the spacecraft. The screen in front of him flashed with red alerts, showing the exploded cutaway view of the battleship in distress. "Finally, we've held them off. Thanks to the pulse-activated linked Almighty Core," the captain sighed in relief, his sweat a mixture of the sweltering heat and the intense fear and nervousness he had endured. The second battle of the model sector concluded with a display of technological prowess and strategic sacrifice that would be remembered for ages. The Fin Whale-class industrial flagship, a civilian vessel by classification, demonstrated resilience against the Republic's onslaught that was nothing short of miraculous. This was made possible by the activation of a pulse-activated linked omnicore, a module that transformed the ship into a nearly impenetrable fortress at the cost of rendering all other systems, except life support, offline. The energy output of the engine surged to hundreds of times its normal capacity, directing an overwhelming supply solely to the shield system. This was because the shield could manage the massive energy influx with its relatively stable flow, unlike the weapon systems that required explosive energy, which would have risked turning the spaceship into a colossal bomb. The effectiveness of this module came with significant drawbacks. The immense heat generated by the engine's overload necessitated docking the battleship near an icy asteroid for cooling. In the vacuum of space, where heat dissipation is a major challenge due to the absence of air, the ship relied on pulverizing the asteroid into fine powder and ejecting it in pulse waves to manage the temperature. This innovative cooling method consumed a substantial portion of the asteroid, with more than two-thirds of its mass, over 2 million tons, used up in the process. Despite the valiant effort, the continuous barrage from the Republic's warships led to the inevitable meltdown of the pulse-activated linked omnicore. The experimental module failed, causing a catastrophic fire that spread throughout the engine room and resulted in extensive damage to the ship. The aftermath left the Fin Whale-class flagship in dire need of repairs, from the engine and power unit to the shield generator and energy transmission pathways, with an estimated overhaul time of 2 months and costs exceeding 40 million credits. Considering the potential addition of another pulse-activated linked omnicore, the total expense could rise by another 20 million. For Volgograd Kennedy, the staggering cost of over 60 million credits was a worthy investment for the success of the decoy operation. The Galactic Republic's fleet had exhausted its ammunition on the industrial flagship, allowing 13 Chasseur-class warships to break through the blockade and enter the hyperspace channel, albeit with diminished combat capabilities. Meanwhile, on the planet Anji, the conflict between the civilian fleet and the Republic squadron escalated to a devastating climax. Hundreds of small spaceships launched relentless assaults on the Republic squadron, with every capable turret firing upon the 10 Chasseur-class battlecruisers. Under normal circumstances, these cruisers would not have faltered against the swarm of smaller ships. However, the intensity of the battle and the strategic use of the pulse-activated linked Omnicore had shifted the balance, demonstrating the unpredictable nature of warfare and the lengths to which both sides would go to secure victory. The carrier-based aircraft were fully loaded on the 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers, suggesting that if a confrontation were to occur, the real advantage in numbers would lie with the Chariot class. However, the situation was far from normal. The 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers left behind had been significantly depleted in a series of previous operations, including missions that involved penetrating a planet's atmosphere for landings. Their remaining behind was partly due to the anticipation of no resupply opportunities during the expedition to the Kuna star cluster, making it prudent to proceed in the best possible condition. Additionally, these warships could continue to search for supplies locally, replenishing their depleted stores. Yet, this optimistic scenario was hardly the reality. The planets in the model sector were anything but peaceful. Riots and strikes broke out incessantly, and piracy, or actions indistinguishable from it, was rampant, threatening every major space lane. Consequently, the Republic squadron left behind found it impossible to secure supplies. They were forced into repeated engagements with interstellar pirates to ensure the safety of their transport routes. As a result, the 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers were running dangerously low on fuel. Their situation worsened when they finally received a shipment of supplies from the Ilu, whose industrial system had been devastated. Before they could even begin loading the supplies, they were ambushed by a makeshift civilian fleet. Faced with the relentless assault, the Republic fleet was compelled to adopt a defensive formation. The civilians, understanding the Republic fleet's priorities, focused their attacks on the transport ships hidden behind the battle line, forcing the Republic's warships into a desperate struggle to protect their crucial cargo. Amidst this chaos, a glimmer of hope appeared on the flagship's bridge of the Republic squadron. Hyperspace fluctuations were detected, signaling the approach of a large fleet of battleships. There was no doubt in the minds of the Republic's soldiers and officers. It had to be their own fleet, led by Master Yoda and others, returning triumphantly from the Kuna star cluster. As a brilliant white light flashed, 13 Chaser-class battlecruisers emerged from the hyperspace channel near the outer orbit of the planet Anji. However, the sight that greeted the Republic soldiers was far from triumphant. The arriving warships were battered and scarred, their armor riddled with damage. Flames still raged in several sections, casting long plumes into the void of space. The sight of these ships, still ablaze as they exited hyperspace, left the Republic's personnel in shock. Typically, a ship would extinguish any fires before navigating the hyperspace channel to avoid malfunctions, a practice any seasoned captain would adhere to. Thus, the only conceivable reason for a fleet to enter hyperspace in such a condition was a desperate flight from an enemy. The tension escalated as the radar operator detected another set of hyperspace fluctuations. With a large, dazzling white light beginning to flicker, it was clear that another massive fleet was exiting the hyperspace channel. The radar operator turned to the squadron commander, his expression blank with disbelief. From another fleet. This unexpected development left the Republic squadron bracing for what could be an even more challenging confrontation. Vol 2, Chapter 155, The Shameful Retreat. The white flashes signaling the spatial dimensional response from exiting the hyperspace channel flickered incessantly as one ship after another emerged from the void. These spaceships, including Higera-class battlecruisers, Generous-class frigates, Javelin-class guided missile frigates, Apocalypse-class light cruisers, and even a formidable Rukri Hook-class battleship, arrived in a staggered sequence. Unlike the Republic's battleships, which bore the scars of battle, these ships, despite their damages, appeared well-maintained and repaired, thanks to the diligent work of drones. The arrival of this fleet ignited a wave of euphoria across the civilian fleet's public channel, erupting into cheers that resembled a tsunami. "It's our fleet! Our fleet has arrived!" Governor Kennedy is here. Look, the Republic fleet is fleeing. We've won. Long live, long live. Indeed, the Republic fleet was in full retreat. Despite having 19 Charioteer-class battlecruisers still operational, their main guns were depleted, devoid of the turbo-laser shells necessary for firing. Their energy cores were on the brink, indicated by the glaring red alerts, and their engines were throttled back to conserve what little power remained. Their only option was to flee. Volgograd Kennedy, standing on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes ablaze with fury, broadcasted his indignation over the public channel. Want to run? After inflicting such devastation on our model sector, you dare attempt escape? How many people have been displaced? How many are left starving? How many families torn apart? All because of your Republic, because of your Galactic Republic, and you, Jedi Order Yoda. With a forceful slap on the console, he issued a command that resonated across the channel. All troops, attack! We will not let these invaders from the Galactic Republic escape. They will all be brought to justice. The whole army, attack! As the two fleets of the Galactic Republic merged, attempting to reorganize and initiate their hyperspace engines to flee the model sector, their hopes of escape dwindled. The hyperspace channel from planet Anji to planet Celia is currently impassable. Surrender, Republic scum. Volgograd Kennedy bellowed. Indeed, the model sector's hyperspace channels were notoriously unstable. Even the channel from Anji, the most stable among them, was unnavigable for a significant portion of the year. And now, during one of those unnavigable periods, the Republic fleet found itself trapped. General, according to calculations, we can attempt to enter the hyperspace channel in 89.44 hours, the navigator reported, his voice tinged with panic. 89 hours? That's impossible. Theodore, the commander of the Republic fleet, exclaimed. That means we're stuck here for nearly 4 days. General, it's true. The turbulence in the hyperspace channel between the Anakin system and the Celia system won't subside for another 3 to 4 days, the navigator explained. No, we won't survive 3 days out here, Theodore lamented, his despair palpable as he grasped the navigator's shoulders. But, the navigator stammered, powerless to alter their grim fate. Prepare for a hyperspace jump, according to my navigation, came the weary voice of Master Yoda from behind. Master Yoda! Theodore turned sharply, concern etched on his face. But since leading our fleet here, you've yet to recover. Now. It's my responsibility, the failure of this battle. Taking on the responsibility of bringing everyone back, I must, Master Yoda declared, his voice steady despite his frail appearance. Standing with the aid of his crutches, he took a deep breath, his 900-year-old frame showing signs of strain, yet exuding an undeniable resilience. The old man raised his hands, and with a sharp click, his crutches clattered to the ground. In that moment, a peculiar sensation enveloped him, one so profound that even Theoster, an ordinary man, could sense it. It was as if the universe itself was contracting, the stars' spear, alling closer and closer, making the vast cosmos seem to shrink. Astonishingly, Theoster could see his home planet, Federa, drawing nearer, until he could make out the faces of his wife and children. This extraordinary phenomenon wasn't just a figment of his imagination. The navigator, the battleship's navigation computer, and indeed the very fabric of the universe were all being subtly altered by Master Yoda's formidable force abilities. The hyperspace readings are changing. The next jump is now estimated to take 72 hours, 61 hours, 58 hours. The navigator announced, his voice tinged with excitement. The entire planet of Anji, along with its surrounding space and the real model sector, watched in awe as the Republic fleet engaged their hyperdrive and lowered their energy shields. Don't let them escape, bellowed Volgograd Kennedy, his voice echoing across the battlefield. Every ship in the model sector fleet unleashed a barrage of fire upon the Republic fleet, their targets shifting from the transport vessels to the Republic's Chaser-class battlecruisers. They were determined to obliterate every last one. However, the disparity in the warship's capabilities meant that if the Republic's Chaser-class battlecruisers chose to flee, the outdated ships of the model sector would stand no chance of stopping them. This became evident when Master Yoda, tapping into his immense force powers, forcibly opened a hyperspace channel. The model sector's fleet managed to damage the energy systems and engines of 3 Chaser-class ships, but the remaining 16 battlecruisers activated their superchargers amidst the enemy fire and entered the hyperspace channel, vanishing in bursts of brilliant white light. "Kill him for me." Volgograd Kanidy's command was cut short as he watched the Republic's ships disappear into hyperspace. Suddenly, drained of all strength, he nearly collapsed, his body twisting awkwardly. However, he quickly braced himself against a table to remain upright. Jin Chen, standing nearby, rushed to his aid, helping him to his feet. "Your Excellency the Governor, we've won! We've completely won! The Republic fleet has left the model sector," Jin Chen exclaimed, a note of triumph in his voice. Please remember to visit the original website for this book for the fastest updates. Website. Chapter 56. Awakening. "Your Excellency the Governor, we have triumphed. The Republic's battleships have been completely driven out of the model sector," Jin Chen exclaimed, supporting Volgograd Kanidy with enthusiasm. Volgograd Kanidy, having regained his composure, placed a hand on Jin Chen's shoulder and responded with a heavy tone. "We may have won the battle, but in truth, this is far from a victory." Jin Chen fell silent, understanding the gravity of Kanidy's words. Despite the Republic fleet's retreat, the scars left behind were profound. 30 warships had breached the hyperspace channel, unleashing havoc across nearly every administrative planet within the model sector and the Kuna star cluster. The aftermath was devastating. 16 battleships were lost, and in a desperate attempt to starve the Republic fleet of supplies, the model sector had inflicted wounds upon itself. Warehouses were razed, factories ceased operations, workers were rendered jobless, and entire planets ground to a halt. The situation was so dire that on Kuna's teeth, the planet that bore the brunt of the conflict, Master Yoda himself had to intervene to ensure that production continued to prevent famine. This was a gesture of sympathy from the enemy, and the cost was staggering. The absence of essential resources like blasting gas, core elements, and fuel meant that the model sector had to obliterate its own reserves. Hiding these resources from the Republic's advanced sensor scanners was no small feat, especially when the last of them were stored within a fin whale-class industrial flagship, serving both as bait and a crucial supply for the final stand. Depleting the Republic fleet's resources was a monumental task, given the firepower and manpower of 30 Chaser-class battlecruisers. Every shot fired and every clone trooper deployed represented a sacrifice made by the people of the model sector, whose losses far exceeded those of the Galactic Republic. Jin Chen, with renewed vigor, declared, "Your Excellency the Governor, it is your leadership that has inspired everyone in the model sector to make these sacrifices. They have found a second home here, and it is you who have guided them in building and defending it." A glint of emotion flashed in Volgograd Kanidy's eyes as he responded, "I am honored to serve as the governor of this sector and to protect the borders of the Fourth Civilization." "The Fourth Civilization? Where is Tang Xiao?" Jin Chen inquired, driven by curiosity. In response, Kanidy delivered a sharp slap across Jin Chen's face and ordered, "Take him away for 3 days." A police officer, donned in a white helmet, promptly escorted Jin Chen away. Volgograd Kanidy stood before the command console, lost in thought. He recognized the truth in Jin Chen's impulsive words. The strategy to repel the Galactic Republic's fleet had involved using the sector's civilians as a shield to exhaust the enemy's supplies, a tactic that exploited 2 factors shamelessly: the moral integrity of Master Yoda, the Republic fleet's commander and a respected Jedi Master, and the unwavering dedication of the military and civilians of the model sector. This acknowledgement weighed heavily on Volgograd Kanidy, casting a shadow over the so-called victory. The sacrifices made by his people were a testament to their resilience and loyalty, but the cost of their survival had been immense. As he pondered the future, Volgograd Kanidy knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, yet he remained determined to rebuild and protect the sector, bolstered by the unwavering support of its inhabitants. The sector placed unwavering trust in him. The success of the battle plan hinged on his leadership. A change in the commander of the Republic fleet or the governor's position would have doomed it from the start. Master Yoda, known for his wisdom and compassion, would never have sanctioned the slaughter of a city or the orbital bombardment of a planet to subdue those planets in the model sector that only feigned surrender. Moreover, no other governor could command the same level of respect as Kennedy, inspiring people to willingly lay down their lives for him. This victory, though costly, marked a significant change in the model sector. The people had awakened to a sentiment that perhaps should have remained dormant. As governor, Kennedy's prestige continued to soar. Yet he reminded himself sternly, the model sector must always remain a part of the Fourth Civilization, under the steadfast leadership of Governor Tang Xiao, without exception. Shaking his head to dispel any doubts, Volgograd Kennedy initiated a communication link. His current adjutant, He Yuan, who also served as the Minister of Administration for the model sector, appeared on the screen. He Yuan, ever composed, bowed gracefully and saluted before saying, "This victory will be remembered in the annals of history, Your Excellency. We must begin the rebuilding process immediately. The damage to the model sector is extensive. Recovery will take time," Kennedy responded. "I will start making the necessary arrangements right away," He Yuan assured him. At that moment, the flagship's navigator approached with a report. "Governor, our sensors detected that the Galactic Republic employed an extremely powerful and invisible force to create a permanent hyperspace channel in the Anji galaxy as they departed." Kennedy frowned, impressed despite the circumstances. "Are you suggesting that Master Yoda managed to construct a permanent hyperspace channel by himself?" Despite their adversarial relationship, Kennedy couldn't help but express the utmost respect for Master Yoda, referring to him as Master, except in moments of anger. "It appears so," the navigator confirmed. "This new hyperspace channel could pose a significant threat to us. Implement a hyperspace blocker, deploy air mines, and secure the channel. Until we've established a robust defense, this channel is off limits," Kennedy ordered. "Understood," came the immediate response. Another officer approached with a different concern. "Your Excellency, the Airu people wish to surrender once more, seeking our assistance in cleansing the contamination that has engulfed nearly all their major cities. Accept their surrender, but inform them they must undertake the cleanup of their cities themselves. We have our reconstruction efforts to focus on. We'll discuss their treatment at a later date," Kennedy decided. "Really? Shouldn't we deal with them immediately? Those who sided with Chinmuchu deserve no mercy. We should purge their leadership as we did before." The officer's aggressive stance was evident. The Airu are already defeated, and the contamination and subsequent disease outbreaks in their cities will hinder their recovery for a decade. Acting against them now, in their desperation, could provoke unforeseen complications, Kennedy explained calmly. "Ah, I see. A slow boil approach, then?" the officer replied, understanding dawning on his face. "That's not what I meant," Kennedy corrected him with a shake of his head. As he prepared to retire to his quarters for some much-needed rest, a staff officer approached with news. "Your Excellency, we've received a congratulatory message from Dawn Planet celebrating our significant victory. Additionally, Dawn Planet requests our assistance in quelling the ongoing unrest on Celia Planet." Kennedy frowned, considering the request. He surveyed the officers and soldiers around him, then said, "Respond to Dawn Planet. Tell them, the model sector has endured significant devastation and is in dire need of rebuilding. The situation on planet Celia has reached a point where intervention is crucial. Please note the original domain name for this book for future reference. For the quickest updates, visit the Apex Novel Network's mobile site. Vol 2, Chapter 1057, Undercurrent. "Did Kennedy say he doesn't have the ability to deploy troops?" Tang Xiao asked, casting a stern glance at Helmut Zemo, who stood beside him. "That's correct," Zemo replied, adjusting his glasses. "This minor test has indeed revealed some issues. At the very least, we need to consider the independence tendencies of the immigrants in the model sector." Tang Xiao smiled. "It's not surprising. Given the rapid development of the model sector, at least 80% of its population consists of immigrants from other sectors. These aren't ordinary immigrants. They're individuals fleeing war and famine. It's highly likely that such immigrants, upon finding peace, tranquility, or even just a full meal in a new place, will transfer all their loyalty to their new home. So, should we take preemptive action?" Zemo inquired. Tang Xiao shook his head. No need. I chose Volgograd Kanidi for a reason. Do you know why I insisted on keeping him as the colony chief of Kuna's Fang more than 10 years ago, even when Ailu was being aggressive? It wasn't just to exploit his perceived cowardice at the time, but also because of what he was concealing. He is a strong and wise general, as well as a compassionate governor who takes matters into his own hands, Zemo remarked. Tang Xiao's lips curled into a slight smile. And there's one more thing. Loyalty. His record doesn't exactly scream loyalty, Zemo chuckled. But he understands the price of loyalty better than anyone, Tang Xiao countered, signaling with a hand. A living robot flew over, draping a black cloak over him. As soon as the cloak settled on his shoulders, a chilling aura emanated from him. In times of peace, whether it's a dominion or a state, they can squabble over it as they please. But until then, the model sector must serve as part of the war machine of the Fourth Civilization. Should there be any action that jeopardizes my plans, well, Kennedy knows better than anyone what I'll do. His grim laughter underscored the threat. After dismissing Zemo with a wave, Tang Xiao retreated to the back of the office, took a secret elevator, and headed to his private quarters. Helmut Zemo bowed deeply as Tang Xiao disappeared, a cryptic smile playing on his lips. If he truly understands, he'll send the troops without hesitation. The Celia system is a test of our limits. It seems we've been too lenient with the model sector. His expression turned cold as he left the governor's office, headed to the administrative center, had a confidential meeting with Prime Minister Francis Underwood, and departed, satisfied with the outcome. On the Tooth planet of Kuna, within the administrative center and the governor's palace of the Star region, despite the sector's heavy losses in the recent battle, Sector Governor Volgograd Kanidi hosted a modest celebration dinner. They congratulated themselves on repelling the Galactic Republic fleet led by Master Yoda without any external assistance. This battle would undoubtedly be remembered in history, leaving a significant mark in the records of both the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. At the celebration, officials from all levels of the model sector raised their glasses in a toast, their spirits high even if the beer was cheap. The current queen of the Iru people, along with a special envoy, attempted to mend fences with the governor's palace but were promptly turned away. In a gesture of sincerity, Queen Ailu and the envoy knelt on the cold ground outside the governor's mansion, not daring to move. Inside, Volgograd Kanidi, beer in hand and belching loudly, peered out the window. What's happening outside? Why? Why are there so many people? At that moment, a beautiful figure entered, carrying a hint of incense, and strategically positioned herself to block Kanedi's view. He Yuan, the adjutant and chief executive of the Star District, was a vision of elegance in her black evening dress, having set aside her usual gold-rimmed glasses. The dress's low V neckline was tastefully complemented by a simple gold necklace, which highlighted her grace in a way that made her seem like a completely different person. She gracefully picked up a wine glass from Kanedi's grasp, clinked it lightly against her own, and returned it to him, her voice soft but clear. There are civilians outside who have come to offer their congratulations. They are deeply invested in the outcome of this battle and are in high spirits. I've arranged for food and beer to be distributed among them. Enough, enough! Kanedi responded with a stern wave of his hand, his voice laden with emotion. It's the ordinary people who truly suffer in this battle. They are the unsung heroes, not shields to be used at our convenience. Kanedi's inebriation was evident. His voice grew louder as he continued. You know, even though I wasn't there, I heard Master Yoda over the comm. He urged us to maintain order, to prevent famine. Yet he's our enemy. It's almost enough to make me cry. And he saw through my plans long before, but. Overcome with emotion, Kanedi slammed his fist onto the windowsill, letting his pent-up feelings erupt. He Yuan, ever the supportive companion, placed a comforting hand on his broad shoulders. We are part of the Fourth Civilization. It chose war, and we must uphold its decision with honor. That is our duty, our destiny. That's right. Kanedi, thoroughly drunk, lamented his inability to control his emotions after years of abstaining from alcohol. Today, however, in the wake of a significant victory, he had allowed himself to indulge. They don't understand. These people, they died because of the Fourth Civilization's war. Damn it, isn't the model sector part of the Fourth Civilization? The Galactic Republic may call, but it's not us, eh? Kennedy exclaimed, his voice a mix of frustration and despair. He Yuan, understanding and supportive, hugged him tightly. It's natural to feel this way. I completely understand your feelings, and I'll always stand by your side. The will of the Fourth Civilization cannot be defied. The next morning, He Yuan was jolted awake by a loud noise. Opening her eyes, she found the other side of the bed empty, the bedroom in disarray, a clear sign of the governor's, Volgograd Kennedi's, restless night. The noise from outside suggested that Kennedy had awakened and was now dealing with Queen Ailu and her entourage, who were still kneeling at the gates of the governor's palace. He Yuan pressed a button to summon her personal medical robot, then lay back down, her voice firm. Scan the uterus. A beam of light swept across her lower abdomen, and the medical robot's emotionless voice reported, "The fertilized egg has been formed and is in normal condition. The pregnancy drug has been effective." A mysterious smile played on Hee-Yuan's lips as she gently caressed her belly, lost in thought about the future. Volume 2, Chapter 1058, Dark Experiment. Darth Marthael stepped out of the elevator, entering a private and secretive space he had established within the Mothership. This area served as his personal laboratory for conducting research into the dark powers. The room was filled with an array of unsettling items, a sinister-looking altar with a terrifying book placed in front of it, vessels containing strange biological tissues, a lightning sphere suspended in midair, numerous advanced instruments, and a black coffin. At first glance, the setup resembled the lair of a classic villain. However, Darth Marthael had his justifications. The altar was a Sith altar, a common fixture for those of his order, and the book was none other than the Book of the Sith. The presence of death and resentful spirits in this space, a consequence of his meditations, had transformed it into its current state. The bizarre biological tissues were essential for his experiments on immortality, specifically testing the compatibility of unique galactic races with essence transfer techniques, using intelligent creatures as subjects. After all, transferring his soul into a cow was hardly his objective. The lightning sphere, the core of the Dark Reaper, was something Lucian Dre had mentioned would be crucial for saving his life. Despite not knowing how to utilize this artifact yet, Darth Marthael kept it contained within an electromagnetic field to prevent the dark power from leaking out while he sought a way to reconstruct the Dark Reaper. These elements were not assembled to cultivate a villainous image. After all, villains don't typically see themselves as the protagonists of their stories. The black coffin, Draper's stasis chamber, was Darth Marthael's focus upon entering the room. With a gesture and an ancient Sith command, the chamber silently opened, releasing a white mist. Inside lay Celeste Morn, her eyes closed, her complexion pale, and a palpable aura of death surrounding her lower abdomen. Darth Marthael used the Force to levitate Celeste's body, gently placing her in the center of the altar. Approaching, he waved his hand, and the Force tore her clothes, revealing her toned, wheat-colored skin and the muscular definition that added a unique allure to her appearance. Her hair, previously tied in a ponytail, came loose, adding a touch of femininity to her otherwise warrior-like demeanor. The only adornment left was the insect-shaped amulet around her neck, which, in this context, seemed more provocative than if she had been completely bare. Technically, Darth Marthael's procedure required access only to her lower abdomen, which had already been exposed. However, he preferred to remove the clothing entirely for convenience, not out of any prurient interest. Those familiar with his methods might dismiss his actions as eccentric, while others might label him a rogue. But such opinions never concerned him. After all, he often joked that those who criticized him would find their instant noodles lacking seasoning in the future, a light-hearted threat that underscored his disregard for their opinions. Placing his hand on Celeste Morn's abdomen, Darth Marthael summoned the power of death and the dark side of the Force. Celeste stirred faintly, her consciousness returning just enough to realize her vulnerable position atop an ominous altar. Anger and determination flashed through her as she reached out with the Force, attempting to summon her lightsaber to her hand. Observing her instinctive reaction to fight, rather than to shield herself in a vulnerable moment, Darth Marthael nodded in approval. Indeed, as I expected, a shadow trained by Lucian Dre truly is well prepared, he remarked slowly, his gaze lingering on Celeste. You needn't worry. I've confined Lucian with the power of death. He's trapped, unable to see you in this state. Your actions are unnecessary and vile, Sith, Celeste retorted, her voice strained with anger. Your resistance is futile. Why not focus on something more productive? Darth Marthael suggested, raising his hand. Celeste's strength ebbed away, her body involuntarily spreading out in surrender. Carnes Moore's power is formidable. I must drain it gradually to ensure this amulet poses no threat. As he traced his fingers across Celeste's abdomen, a delicate sensation met his touch. Celeste writhed in discomfort, her body immobilized by an unseen force. It was her spirit that suffered, not her flesh. Remove your filthy hands from me, she demanded. Darth Marthael continued, unfazed. To deplete Carnes Moore's power requires patience. You'll be here for some time. Perhaps you'll grow accustomed to it. Stay away from me, despicable Sith, Celeste exclaimed in defiance. I'll seal Celeste's soul, just below your navel, Darth Marthael stated, his fingers inching down her abdomen, his expression stoic. Direct contact is necessary to initiate my spell. Now, tell me, what location is closest to that point? Celeste's mind raced with fear as she anticipated his next move, struggling fiercely. How dare you? I'd rather die than let you do this. With a sinister smirk, Darth Marthael applied a slight pressure, and Celeste's abdomen was pierced, blood flowing freely. You! Monster! Celeste cried out in agony. At that moment, Darth Marthael's spirit, imbued with the power of death, reconnected with the imprisoned Carnes Moore. You dare imprison me? I'll destroy you! Carnes Moore's phantom bellowed, lunging forward in rage. Today, you're not the first to wish for my demise. Take a number, Darth Marthael retorted, his dark and deathly powers intertwining, ensnaring Carnes Moore's soul. The phantom's power was gradually siphoned, drawn from Celeste's body and dissipated. Carnes Moore screamed in frustration, his attempts to resist futile against the combined might of Celeste's body and the Sith altar. Please remember to visit the original site for this novel for the fastest updates. Vol 2, Chapter 1059, The Day of the Decisive Battle. 1. Carnes Moore was in a state of sheer terror as he felt his power being siphoned away gradually. To his horror, fragments of his memory were also dissipating into the ether. He unleashed a barrage of roars, thrashing and ramming in a futile attempt to resist. The formidable dark force within him tried to counteract, but Celeste's body acted as a barrier, effectively nullifying his efforts. In this moment, he resembled a beast trapped within an unyielding cage. Despite his immense power, the cage's confines restricted him, leaving him vulnerable to Darth Marthael, who stood outside, methodically slicing away at his essence. Driven to madness, Carnes Moore, a Sith Lord of the first generation who once held dominion over the world, found himself in a state of unprecedented despair. The indignity of being imprisoned and used as mere sustenance pushed him to the brink. He lashed out wildly, deploying his potent dark force against Darth Marthael, but to no avail. For over 4,000 years he had maintained this formidable state, but now it had become his greatest vulnerability. Carnes Moore had achieved a unique state of existence where his soul, strength, and knowledge were fused into one. This integration meant that every aspect of his being was also a part of his soul. Darth Marthael, having slain many, had attempted to extract thoughts from the souls of his victims, but only ever encountered fragmented memories. This was because the soul, memory, and talent are distinct entities to the Force. Although Darth Marthael's power of death could absorb the power and souls of others, it had always been ineffective against memories. However, Carnes Moore presented a unique case. Carnes Moore's ability to retain his formidable force and intact memory as a Sith ghost was due to this extraordinary state of being, referred to as the Trinity by Darth Plagueis. This unity of infinity, soul, and spirit was essential for the technique of immortality, allowing one to transfer their life essence to another body. Darth Marthael was capable of achieving the Trinity, but could not sustain it as Carnes Moore did, ultimately relying on a body to do so. For millennia, Darth Marthael had depended on Celeste Mourn's body, seeking rebirth. However, Celeste's will proved to be incredibly resilient, leading her to enter the stasis chamber and sever all connections. Over time, Celeste's body had become perfectly attuned to Carnsmore's soul, effectively becoming his prison. Aware of his predicament, Carnsmore attempted to destroy Celeste's body with his immense strength, hoping to regain control and confront Darth Marthael once more. But Darth Marthael was not about to allow this. Having absorbed sufficient power, he propelled Celeste Morn into the stasis chamber and sealed it shut. Within the chamber, where even time stood still, Carnsmore was rendered powerless. Darth Marthael, standing at the center of the Sith altar, began to methodically assimilate Carnsmore's power. The force of the first-generation Sith Lord was tumultuous and untamed, filled with raw, negative emotions and energies from the universe itself. Darth Marthael chose not to absorb this force directly, as it would be counterproductive. Instead, he isolated and absorbed Carnsmore's memories, piece by piece. Though it was only a fraction, the dark and forbidden knowledge contained within those memories held immense power. The oppressive force still dominated Darth Marthael's will. In this dire moment, he realized that no one could assist him but himself. Meanwhile, in the year 21 BBY, on June 34th, a significant gathering was taking place in the Eliadu system, specifically on the satellite of Eliadu. An immense army, numbering 1.3 million, was assembling at the satellite's designated point. This location, once a barracks for the Galactic Republic's forces, was now teeming with soldiers from the Fourth Civilization. Among this vast army were 1 million robotic soldiers, including the B-1 battle droids and B-2 Supermat battle droids. The remaining 300,000 were comprised of organic beings from various species, such as humans, Kali, Injorus, Semers, Eols, Solarians, Grands, and Dags. These diverse forces, united under the banner of the Fourth Civilization, were preparing for a decisive assault on their primary target, the planet Eliadu. Major General Ling Liang of the Fourth Civilization Army, serving as the deputy commander of the campaign and the chief commander of the forces, had meticulously planned this operation. After ensuring the 300,000 organic troops were well provisioned, they began boarding their respective ships in an orderly fashion. The satellite's low-gravity environment facilitated the takeoff and landing of large spacecraft, a strategic advantage that many planetary systems sought to exploit by establishing bases on their satellites. Now, the substantial base that Governor Tarkin had established on the Eliadu satellite was poised to serve as a launchpad for the Fourth Civilization's ambitious assault. The Injorus warriors boarded the Kessoff-class battlecruisers and prepared for an orbital drop in assault landing ships. The droid army packed into the spherical core ships of the Rucker-Hook-class battleships, ready to be deployed onto the planet via the C-9979 landing crafts. Meanwhile, the other forces boarded battery-class transport ships and Diamond-class multi-purpose transport cruisers, gearing up for the landing operation. With everything in place, the only thing left to wait for was the critical moment when the planetary shield of Eliadu would finally fail. After enduring over a month of relentless bombardment, the shield was on the brink of collapse. Observers from space could witness the immense heat erupting near the planet's shield generator, reminiscent of a volcanic explosion. One of the energy supply stations, having melted down, now resembled a fiery volcano. Despite the efforts of numerous ships attempting to quell the flames with firefighting foam, their efforts were in vain. Indeed, the planetary shield of Eliadu was on the verge of destruction, a pivotal moment that would soon arrive. Vol 2, Chapter 1060, The Day of the Decisive Battle, Part 2. Shen Yuanhao stood at the forefront, observing the chaos as the Injolus boarded the Kessoff-class battlecruiser. The scene was tumultuous, filled with endless scolding and roaring. Several Injolus, jostled during the boarding process, were on the verge of brawling right there. However, any Injoli who dared to escalate the situation was swiftly subdued by the group's special forces, whose skin scales had darkened to a shade of black-green. These Injolis, enhanced with the latest biotechnology from Umbrella Pharmaceuticals Group and controlled by Nemesis beta parasites, were formidable killing machines. They represented a perfect hybrid between the natural Injoli warriors and the bioengineered Injoli Avengers. Despite their effectiveness, the cost of creating such soldiers was prohibitively high. Yet, the Injoli people had a surprisingly high acceptance of these biological weapons. The resurrection of an Injoli warrior, even by the T-virus, to fight again as an Injoli Avenger was a source of pride. To the Injolis, the honor of battle outweighed all else, making the concept of Injoli Avengers and these enhanced soldiers readily accepted. Shen Yuanhao glanced at Karina, who stood behind him, aware that the Injoli people were more receptive to the idea of Injoli Avengers than to her presence. In the warrior-centric Injoli society, women held a low status, their primary roles being reproduction and securing alliances through marriage. For instance, during the Injoli riots incited by Darth Sidious, the Injoli chief elder married his daughter to Velma, a Devalonian mercenary, to secure an alliance. However, Karina was an exception due to her force sensitivity. Despite being young during the riots, her power had grown significantly over the years, making her unmatched even by the tribe's strongest warriors. Her gender, ironically, was the only thing that prevented her from being hailed as the greatest hero among the Injolis. The Injolis' traditional views could not accommodate a woman more powerful than a man, yet they could not afford to alienate such a formidable warrior. Thus, when Shen Yuanhao became the director of the Injoli galaxy, the Injoli elders proposed marrying Karina to him as a means to align more closely with the Fourth Civilization. Initially, Shen Yuanhao was hesitant, but after a discussion with Helmut Zemo, he was convinced of the marriage's strategic importance. Upon their first meeting, Karina made it clear to Shen Yuanhao that she had no interest in him beyond a strategic alliance. She expressed her desire to leave the stifling environment of Yinqiao and stipulated only one condition for their marriage: she must accompany him in battle. Thus, the unconventional union between a human and an Injoli was formed. Once married, Karina's status in the eyes of the Injoli Presbyterian Church improved significantly. Despite her unconventional nature, she was now viewed as someone's wife, which made her more palatable to the traditionalist society. As the decisive battle approached, Shen Yuanhao and Karina stood together, united not just by a political marriage, but by a shared commitment to their cause. The chaos of the boarding process faded into the background as they focused on the impending conflict, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. From a strategic angle, the alliance between Shen Yuanhao and Karina was visually and practically pleasing. For Shen Yuanhao, partnering with Karina significantly bolstered his command over the Injoli army. In essence, Karina's presence alone was a more effective disciplinary measure than any other. Her unmatched strength meant that no Injoli dared to challenge her. Thus, while they were nominally husband and wife, their relationship more closely resembled that of comrades in arms, jointly leading the Injoli forces with remarkable combat efficiency. "Line up, everyone. The next person who damages the hatch of the transport ship will answer to me." Karina's voice boomed across the ranks, her fangs bared in a menacing grin as she addressed the disorganized Injoli soldiers. "It's not your place to shout at me, woman," retorted a soldier, towering nearly 3 meters tall, a giant even among the Injoli. Boom! In an instant, Karina's fist sent the towering soldier flying several meters back. Without uttering another word, she let out a fearsome roar, instantly bringing order to the once chaotic group. The soldiers, now subdued, quickly formed orderly lines. Shen Yuanhao and Karina continued their inspection, herding the disciplined soldiers onto the spaceship. "They might question your gender, but they'll never dare question your authority," Shen Yuanhao remarked, observing the soldiers' newfound respect for Karina. "Because that's the only thing they can question," Karina replied, her smile radiating a confidence that could captivate anyone. Approaching the loading area, they noticed a massive metal box being hoisted onto their Kisov-class battlecruiser. Occasional low growls emanated from within the box, hinting at something ominous. Karina's muscles tensed at the sight, her aura thick with lethal intent. "This thing is a grave threat. I want to destroy it," she declared, her voice heavy with determination. "It's the secret weapon provided by the governor," Shen Yuanhao calmly explained. "The governor of the Fourth Civilization." Karina's vigilance persisted until the box was securely stored in the battleship's cargo hold. She then relaxed slightly, looking down at Shen Yuanhao. The fourth civilization is formidable, and your governor must be even more so. Once we conquer this planet, you'll have the chance to meet him, Shen Yuanhao replied, gazing up at the blue-green planet of Eliadu hanging in the sky. Boom! A massive launcher nearby fired a super high-yield nuclear bomb towards the planet, its magnetic acceleration track roaring deafeningly. This marked the beginning of a brutal battle for Eliadu. Vol 2, Chapter 161, The Day of the Decisive Battle, Part 3, July 1st, 21 BBY. This day also marks one of the statutory Boxing Days of the Fourth Civilization, a tradition seemingly established on a whim by their leader, Tang Xiao, who arbitrarily selected a few dates on the calendar. The deeper significance behind these dates has since been the subject of much speculation and analysis by sociologists and humanists. In the outer space surrounding planet Eliadu, a formidable assembly of the Fourth Civilization's fleet is engaged in a relentless assault. Nuclear missiles and proton torpedoes are continuously launched towards the besieged planet, causing catastrophic explosions upon impact with the planetary shield. Each explosion generates energy ripples that span hundreds, if not thousands, of kilometers across the shield, painting a scene of apocalyptic devastation. Positioned at the rear of this vast fleet, 2 Dawn-class motherships stand ready, their cabins and building modules fully extended to form 2 colossal space factories. These factories are in constant operation, churning out war supplies to support the ongoing conflict. Hundreds of transport ships, having loaded up on combat supplies from the Eliadu satellite, shuttle back and forth between the satellite's 3 Lukrahuk-class battleships and the motherships, ensuring a steady flow of resources to the front lines. The strategic capture of Eliadu satellite plays a crucial role in this battle. Given planet Eliadu's highly industrialized nature and the near closure of the hyperspace channel, the war resources available on the satellite are vital for sustaining the fleet's needs. Moreover, interstellar mines on several other planets within the Eliadu galaxy, including Tara Stella, have been mobilized, funneling a vast quantity of resources to the satellites. In this battle for planetary dominance, the contest boils down to a sheer test of resources and energy. By severing external support and securing control over other planets in the galaxy, the Fourth Civilization's fleet has decisively tipped the scales in their favor. Preparations for the post-occupation phase are already underway. More than a dozen Raz-class heavy engineering ships have commenced the construction of 2 Argonauts Nev-class interstellar bases in the outer orbits of the planet's poles, laying the groundwork for the Fourth Civilization's future presence on Eliadu. A staff member, after liaising with the sensor department, approaches the fleet's commander-in-chief, Admiral Severance Tan, on the bridge. With a crisp salute, the officer relays the latest data to Tan, stating, "General, our calculations indicate that we will breach the planetary shield of Eliadu within the next 5 to 8 hours. Admiral Tan, reviewing the data on her universal tool, responds with a nod, her expression steely. Notify Ling Liang and instruct her forces to excel in their performance. With less than 2 months remaining before the hyperspace storm subsides, we must secure Eliadu within this time frame." But General Ling mentioned at the last military meeting that capturing Eliadu within 2 months was nearly impossible. The staff officer begins, only to be silenced by Tan's icy glare. He quickly averts his gaze, choosing to remain silent. Admiral Tan rises from her seat and strides towards the porthole, arms crossed as she gazes out at the embattled planet. A cold smile plays at the corner of her mouth, signaling her confidence in the impending victory. Meanwhile, in the vicinity of the Eliadu satellite, an armada of transport and landing ships ascends into space. Among these vessels, the imposing silhouettes of 5 Kessoff-class battlecruisers emerge, slowly ascending and adjusting their course towards planet Eliadu, ready to join the fray. An army of 1.3 million was fully mobilized on planet Eliadu, the capital city of the same name. The redundancy of the name across the galaxy, from the planet to its satellite and various facilities, was a source of frustration. Governor Wilhoff Tarkin, commander of the 18th Army of the Galactic Republic, stood solemnly in front of a window, gazing at the sky ablaze with what seemed like an enormous display of flames and light. He knew, however, that this spectacle would soon end in a catastrophic explosion, erasing the once vibrant display. Planet Eliadu, once a bustling commercial hub in the outer ring of the Milky Way, with a thriving economy and industry, was now facing its demise after over 3 months of relentless conflict. Your Excellency the Governor, the underground command center in Elixiang City is ready. Please proceed there to oversee the battle, a staff officer informed Tarkin. With a final glance at the fiery sky, Tarkin silently turned and made his way to the command center, located hundreds of meters below the surface. There, hundreds of commanders and staff were already at work, surrounding a massive holographic projection of the planet, densely marked with the locations of tens of thousands of military units. Despite the formidable ground defenses being erected, the situation on Eliadu was dire. The once lively cities were now ghost towns. The streets were crowded with emaciated, hungry people queuing at the few food distribution points, holding any container they could find, waiting for their next ration. Their faces were numb, expressionless, showing no fear, even as they occasionally glanced at the sky, seemingly indifferent to the impending doom. Patrolling soldiers, faces hidden behind black masks, showed no hesitation in shooting anyone who dared to jump the queue, leaving bodies to rot unattended. Meanwhile, hover trucks slowly navigated the streets, and soldiers of the Galactic Republic, in simple military attire and armed with blaster rifles, recruited any able-bodied person they encountered. These recruits, given a piece of bread and a blaster, quickly joined the ranks, leaving only the frail and weak behind, still desperately waiting for food. Before the war, planet Eliadu had a population of 22 billion. Now it was reduced to 13 billion. This tale of survival and despair on planet Eliadu unfolds, capturing the grim reality of a world engulfed in war. Vol 2, Chapter 1062, The Day of the Decisive Battle, Part 4. Planet Eliadu was once the crown jewel of economic development in the outer ring of the Milky Way, surpassing even the economy of planet Christophsis. Its prosperity was built on a self-sufficient industrial system and a thriving foreign trade, bolstered by its strategic location as a transportation hub. This economic boom gave rise to a class of wealthy individuals, and to cater to their needs, Eliadu boasted extensive agricultural areas amidst its favorable climate and abundant resources. However, the onset of war brought drastic changes. Under Governor Wilhoff Tarkin's orders, Eliadu began stockpiling resources and evacuating its populace. Yet the evacuation efforts were hampered by the prioritization of war materials for transport, leaving many residents stranded. Some were unable to leave, while others clung to the belief that the planet's formidable defenses would deter any separatist threat. Propaganda further fueled this optimism, painting Governor Tarkin as an invincible war hero, following his victories and industrial dominance over the Surester people on planet Serest. Despite the fall of Tarstra, the fifth planet in the Eliadu system, less than 3 billion of Eliadu's inhabitants chose to evacuate, swayed by the planet's exceptional living conditions and the promise of Republic reinforcements. Eliadu was a rare gem in the Outer Ring, free from the exploitation that plagued many other worlds. The tide of battle, however, took an unforeseen turn. In a matter of hours, the Separatists exploited a stellar flare to breach the defenses between Eliadu and its satellite, landing forces and triggering a hyperspace storm that severed all external communications. This unforeseen event crippled the Republic's ability to resupply Eliadu. Stranded with 19 billion souls, Governor Tarkin was forced to implement a food rationing system and mobilize the populace to expand agricultural production. Despite these efforts, starvation soon gripped the planet, spiraling out of control as the weeks passed. To maintain the planetary army's strength for a final stand, military rations were prioritized, exacerbating the famine among civilians. Starvation claimed lives daily, initially the weakest, but eventually entire villages and towns succumbed. Desperate uprisings were brutally quashed by the well-supplied Republic forces. Those unable to contribute to the military or secure employment were left to subsist on meager daily rations, facing a slow demise. The second month after the hyperspace storm outbreak saw Eliadu engulfed in despair. Resistance had been crushed, and the specter of starvation loomed larger with each passing day. The once thriving planet was now a stark testament to the horrors of war, its people caught between the unyielding forces of the Republic and the relentless advance of the Separatists. The planet Eliadu faced a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions, with 6 billion lives lost in a tragedy that could only be described as apocalyptic. This staggering number of deaths, equivalent to the entire population of Earth perishing within just 70 days, was a grim testament to the devastating impact of the conflict. The Fourth Civilization's fleet, in stark contrast, seemed almost modest. Boasting a naval force of 500,000, of which 200,000 were humans, only a third of their 1.3 million-strong army required sustenance. The resources harvested from the Ryadu satellite were more than enough to meet their needs. Indeed, Severance Tan might have simply waited for the societal order on Eliadu to implode under its own weight in a few months, had there not been the looming threat of the Republic's army launching an attack as soon as the hyperspace storm abated. In this dire situation, both Severance Tan and Ling Liang, through the sacrifice of 6 billion lives, seized the prime opportunity to take control of Eliadu. Meanwhile, Wilhoff Takin leveraged this immense loss of life to fortify the planet with a comprehensive defense system and amass an enormous army numbering 100 million. Perhaps the architects of this strategy did not fully anticipate the catastrophic outcome of their orders, but the grim reality that unfolded was a direct result of their decisions. In this moment, the value of human life was relegated to the lowest priority. On the night of July 1st, 21 BBY, Eliadu's fate reached a critical juncture. The sky was torn asunder by the blinding light of over 20 nuclear explosions, marking the beginning of the planet's final battle. The planetary shield shattered under the onslaught, giving way to towering mushroom clouds that rose thousands of meters into the air. Although these initial nuclear strikes were intended to breach the shield rather than target the surface directly, their immense power left an indelible mark on the planet, sparing neither sea nor mountain and ominously heralding Eliadu's doom. The destruction did not pause. Less than 20 minutes after the shield fell, a more precise and merciless barrage ensued. Tactical nuclear bombs, turbo laser beams dialed back only in power, incendiary devices, and fighter jets laden with ordnance rained down from the heavens. This time, the targets were cities, factories, and military installations. In a final act of restraint, the Fourth Civilization's fleet spared the agricultural zones, but beyond that, the operators of the battleships executed their orders with chilling precision. Each press of the fire button obliterated a target, condemning hundreds of thousands to death. Explosions ravaged the cities in rapid succession. Civilians, already despondent and queuing for food rations, could only gaze skyward in numb horror before being consumed by the blasts. A hover truck, carrying newly enlisted soldiers, was obliterated, leaving behind the haunting image of a severed hand clutching a piece of bread. Republic soldiers, once brimming with bravado, now scrambled for cover, firing their blaster rifles skyward in a futile gesture of defiance. Then, swarms of Vulture robot fighter jets swooped in, unleashing a relentless barrage upon the beleaguered planet. This harrowing account serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of war and the incalculable cost of conflict, where the sanctity of life is all too often forgotten amidst the chaos and destruction. Volume 2, Chapter 1063, The Day of the Decisive Battle, Part 5. Following the initial wave of ferocious bombardment by the Fourth Civilization fleet, their assault did not cease. Instead, they launched a second round of bombing. The native defenders of the planet, initially thrown into disarray, quickly regrouped and mounted a counterattack. Several massive orbital defense cannons stationed on the planet retaliated, aiming to repel the Fourth Civilization warships that persisted in their bombardment. Meanwhile, fighter squadrons, previously sheltered in underground hangars and spared from the initial attack, soared into the sky, engaging the Fourth Civilization's fighters in a fierce aerial battle. On the ground, a barrage of anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky. Laser cannons, machine guns, blasters, and missiles created a spectacular yet terrifying display, with the sky almost set ablaze. The intense exchange of anti-air and anti-ground fire, accompanied by a cacophony of gunshots and explosions, merged into an overwhelming, deafening roar. The sky was littered with exploding flames and falling aircraft, and when large warships penetrated the atmosphere, the friction-induced fire clouds illuminated the night sky of planet Eliadu in a fiery red hue. The anti-aircraft defenses in the planet's capital, Erixiang, were particularly formidable. Under the direction of Wilhelm Tarkin, the city had been transformed into an impenetrable fortress. Reinforced buildings, anti-aircraft turrets on every high point, and a sky blanketed with anti-aircraft fire made the resistance incredibly fierce and determined. This tenacity forced Admiral Severance Tan, Commander-in-Chief of the Fourth Civilization Fleet, to alter her strategy, opting to avoid Elixiang City's airspace and instead land in the surrounding areas. From the battle's outset on planet Eliadu, both sides laid all their cards on the table, leaving no stone unturned. The Fourth Civilization Fleet's actions, essentially amounting to orbital bombing, blatantly disregarded the moral boundaries tacitly respected by all. However, Admiral Severance Tan was singularly focused on capturing planet Eliadu, unconcerned with the broader implications of her actions. Indeed, both the Galactic Republic and its adversaries had resorted to orbital bombardment in various battlefields, driven by desperation rather than concern for public perception. Previously, the Galactic Republic had conducted an orbital bombardment on the remote planet Atrakan. Thanks to a tight news blockade, the operation did not stir significant public outcry. Now, with the aim of seizing planet Eliadu before the subsidence of the hyperspace storm and the arrival of the Galactic Republic's endless reinforcements, Severance Tan was pulling out all the stops. Amidst the relentless bombing, 5 Kessoff-class battlecruisers entered the low orbit of planet Eliadu. Upon reaching their designated positions, each battlecruiser deployed a multitude of raid landing ships from their pods. The discovery of the Kessoff-class battlecruisers' capabilities and the Injoli people's physical resilience, allowing for orbital airborne operations with minimal equipment, had turned orbital airborne assaults into a formidable strategy for the Fourth Civilization's planetary invasions. This approach required no establishment of a landing zone, no suppression of enemy fire, and no selection of an ideal landing site. The sole objective of an orbital airborne assault was clear: to capture the planet. Amidst the chaos, thousands of triangular-shaped assault landing ships descended from the sky, crashing into the ground with the force of cannonballs and obliterating every target in their path. One particular ship, engulfed in flames from its high-speed descent, struck a towering building, slicing through its center before crashing to the ground with a thunderous explosion. The impact left a crater more than 10 meters wide. As the hatch swung open, the Injoli warriors emerged, unscathed and howling with battle fervor. Without a specific plan or target, they charged towards the enemy, propelled by their jetpacks, and descended upon the defenders' strongholds. The air was soon filled with the cacophony of gunfire and screams. The 8,000 Injoli warriors had initiated orbital airdrops in 5 strategic locations on the planet Eliadu, targeting industrial zones, military barracks, areas near the capital, and communication hubs. These formidable warriors needed no specific objectives. Their sole purpose was to sow as much death and chaos as possible, paving the way for the subsequent waves of troops. Meanwhile, aboard one of the Kessoff-class battlecruisers, a separate pod opened, releasing an orbital landing module significantly larger than the others. This module, destined for the city of Elixiang, where anti-aircraft defenses were most formidable, was launched via an electromagnetic rail, a method more akin to firing an electromagnetic cannon than deploying a landing craft. As it entered Eriadu's atmosphere, the module, protected by heavy armor and a deflector shield, reached hypersonic speeds, rendering the ground's anti-aircraft fire nearly ineffective. Upon successfully breaching the city's defenses, the module crashed into several buildings. Ground forces, including 2 TX-130 Sabre hover tanks, quickly converged on the crash site. Suddenly, the capsule's seals burst open, and from within emerged a towering figure. Standing 3 meters tall, this humanoid creature's muscles bulged beneath its thick, menacing armor. This was Darth Marthel, a Sith alchemy beast created through a forbidden blend of Sith alchemy and the Dryer virus by the Sith Lord, using the genetic material of the educator Kassal Fog from the planet Kosher. a creation once sealed away by the Jedi Order, never to be unleashed. Darth Marthale had now been thrust into the heart of Eryxiang, the most fortified city on Eriadu, ready to unleash havoc. With a ferocious roar, Darth Marthale leaped into the air and landed atop one of the TX-130 saber tanks. With incredible force, the tank was smashed from its hovering state to the ground. The battle had truly begun, marking the return of the Sith alchemy beast after 4,000 years. If its previous appearance at the Battle of Terminus Planet was a mere test, its deployment in Eryxiang signified a full-scale assault, a testament to the dark powers at play and the relentless advance of chaos. Raising its hands high, the figure delivered a devastating blow, and with a single punch, the TX-130 saber tank was obliterated. The notion of such a tank, known for its agility rather than its armor, being destroyed in this manner was beyond belief. The Republic soldiers nearby immediately responded with a barrage of blaster fire, but their efforts were futile against the indoctrinated behemoth. With a sweeping punch, the creature sent more than a dozen soldiers flying, showcasing its terrifying strength. Emitting a ferocious howl, it broke through the encirclement and charged into the city's heart. Simultaneously, the successful deployment of orbital airborne troops marked the beginning of a full-scale invasion by the Fourth Civilization Army. Under the command of Major General Ling Liang from low Earth orbit, the invasion force made its descent. C-9979 transport ships and Diamond-class multi-purpose transport cruisers pierced the atmosphere, surrounded by a protective fleet of Vulture droid fighters and Ghost fighters, ready to engage the enemy. Governor Wilhoff Taken had anticipated the initial orbital bombardment, dispersing his air force and armored units into underground bunkers across the planet Eliadu. This strategy preserved much of his military strength, but it also meant that regrouping would be a slow process once the Fourth Civilization initiated their ground assault. In contrast, the Fourth Civilization's fleet was poised to unleash its full might without delay. The APOD-33 transport planes, relics of Starcraft technology, and among the first spacecraft models the Fourth Civilization could construct, were among the first to land. Despite being in service for over a decade and slated for replacement, these transports played a crucial role in deploying troops swiftly to the battlefield. Soldiers in combat gear poured out, securing a foothold by methodically eliminating Republic defenders and establishing a secure landing zone. Following closely, C-979 transport ships deployed MTT personnel carriers, unleashing a wave of B-1 combat robots into the fray. Heavy armored units, including siege tanks, wolf mechs, and M650 Mastodon armored personnel carriers, were brought to the front lines from the safety of the rear by battery-class transport ships. Engineering SCVs set to work constructing fortifications, temporary shelters, and anti-aircraft towers, bolstering the security of the landing forces. With a mechanical roar that cut through the chaos, a siege tank positioned itself and combined its dual 90mm cannons into a formidable 180mm caliber plasma howitzer. The air trembled as it fired a plasma grenade towards Republic positions, signaling the Fourth Civilization Army's relentless advance. The strategy was clear: to encircle and besiege Eryxiang, the administrative heart of planet Eliadu. However, targeting the capital was a bold and risky move. The city was heavily fortified, protected by elite troops, and any attack would surely prompt a swift counterattack. Yet, the Fourth Civilization Army pressed on, determined to secure victory on this crucial battleground. In a strategic move to encircle and conquer, the Fourth Civilization targeted the planet Eliadu, aiming to capture the city of Eryxiang within a month. This ambitious plan was underpinned by the dire situation on Eliadu, which had been ravaged by famine and riots. Ling Liang, the mastermind behind the invasion, meticulously crafted a plan exploiting the planet's chaotic state. Governor Tarkin, in a desperate bid to resist the invasion, had transformed Eliadu into a militarized zone, sacrificing civilian welfare to bolster his army's strength. Disturbingly, there were whispers of cannibalism within his ranks. Upon establishing a foothold, the Fourth Civilization launched a psychological warfare campaign. They airdropped food and weapons into cities, broadcasting messages urging the populace to rise against Tarkin's oppressive regime. They painted a picture of abundance within the Republic's barracks, promising the spoils of war to the rebels. The propaganda promised support from the Fourth Civilization's formidable forces, including a righteous robot army, tanks, fighter jets, and battleships, all ready to assist in overthrowing the Republic. The message was clear: join the rebellion, defeat the Republic, seize the city, and claim your share of the resources. This propaganda struck a chord with the beleaguered citizens of Eliadu, whose faith in the Galactic Republic and Governor Tarkin had dwindled to nothing in the face of ongoing hardships. The promise of food and liberation reignited riots across many cities and even led to the organized surrender of some military units. These soldiers, many of whom had enlisted merely to escape starvation, saw no further reason to remain loyal to the Galactic Republic. As a result, the influence of the Fourth Civilization on Eliadu grew exponentially, marking a significant shift in the planet's power dynamics.